whether the officer was aware of the video and if it indicated a missed search. However, Magistrate Annalyn Africa dismissed the suggestion, saying the defense was relying on assumptions rather than verified evidence.
Were there other dog handlers called to the scene?
Only one dog.
There's no other record of any other dog handler or dog unit that was called by you or any other member of the police, correct?
That is correct.
So Ms. Solomon's made a video depicting that dog unit with the dog handler, the dog itself, and made a complete video stating that the scent was taken to another flat besides the accused flat. That would be a true recollection of the events that you are not aware of.
I think
No, what you are doing is you are trying to put the assumptions made by Ms. Solomon and her understanding of what is now playing out as fact.
The Durban High Court has heard that the Auditor General said in its 2023-2024 report that Ithala was liquid and that its cash reserves had improved. Acting for Ithala, Advocate Sandile Khumalo has told the court that the Ithala's bank accounts were frozen in January because the Reserve Bank's Prudential Authority and the Repayment Administrator had anticipated the outcome of the application to liquidate Ithala. The Development Finance Institution is opposing an application by the Prudential Authority and the Repayment Administrator's application for leave to appeal a court order in May that Ithala be given access to its bank accounts and that it can continue activities that do not involve taking deposits from the public. The legal proceedings stem from the failure in 2023 to renew Ithala's exemption from the Banks Act. Thailand's leader has warned that clashes between Thailand and Cambodia, which have killed at least 16 people and displaced tens of thousands in both countries, could move towards war. Thailand says it's evacuated more than 130,000 people from the area close to the border with Cambodia as the two countries continue to exchange fire using tanks and artillery. The BBC's Jonathan Head reports.
At the moment, we have in Cambodia a not very popular young Prime Minister. His father, Hun Sen, a veteran politician, is the one who's really whipping this up. He turned on his one-time ally, that's the Shinawatra family. They are also in government. Paetongtarn Shinawatra, the Prime Minister, had a conversation with Hun Sen, the Cambodian leader, to try to resolve the conflict a month ago, and he chose to leak the conversation, and that created an enormous political crisis in Thailand. She was suspended by the Constitutional Court. There's a lot of bad feeling in Thailand, and things have just got a lot more tense.
Recapping the top story, the Pestalozzi Trust has filed a constitutional court challenge against the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act. According to the trust, Parliament failed to allow sufficient public participation, resulting in a flawed and potentially unconstitutional law. I am Wandalambana for SFM News Headlines at 3:30.
In sports this hour, Banyana look for consolation in WAFCON third and fourth place playoff, while Azza claims sprint double at FISU Games and Piastri fastest in practice 1 for the Belgian Grand Prix. More details at 3:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit cfi.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45, proudly sponsored by CFI. CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. SAFM, in collaboration with the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz, brings you the Jazz for Young People concert happening at the National School of the Arts on the 26th of July 2025. Tune in to Seasons and the Soundtrack of Your Life, broadcasting live. This unique event is a powerful celebration of youth, creativity, and community spirit. Bring the whole family to enjoy a wonderful day of world-class jazz from young musicians, curated by Zoe Mudicha, featuring National School of the Arts Band, Willow Crescent Magnet School of Music Band, Biko's Manor, and many others. Have fun while doing good. Tickets are available at Quicket for just 80 Rand and 50 Rand for kids under 12. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So, yesterday, I wasn't here, right? But I was involved in, emceeing and moderating the SIOPSA conference. And that is about industrial psychology, and this is the important point I want to bring up. It deals really with understanding people and the culture of organizations and the culture of how people work. And by extension, the organizational way that people do things together on a small scale and on a big scale. And I'm just saying that because I think more than ever before, we underestimate just how critical that is, the issue of industrial psychology and understanding what is it, the culture of bringing people together to understand and to solve problems on a company scale, but also on a national scale. So even now, just perhaps, we need to pay more attention to the efforts of organizations and workshops that put together that talks about how we need to be able to work together, which may and may not be the same as the national dialogue, not at all. But just, we're talking about the culture of the way we do things. How much emphasis do we put on that? Think about that. My name's Ashraf Garda. Welcome to the show. This is the National Pulse. I understand that John Carricker stood in for me yesterday, so thank you for that, John. You, of course, are talking to me today to call in 086 000 2032, WhatsApp, text or voice note 0614 104 107. And then, as always, you can use the hashtag The National Pulse when you tag us on SFM Radio and myself, Ashraf Garda. I'll tell you what, we've got a fabulous fireside chat guest coming up after 5. I'll tell you about that just now. But let's get first things first to a big issue concerning South Africa and Lesotho. Concerns are rising in Lesotho about nationals from that country, Lesotho nationals, being denied health care in South Africa. Now, there's been this growing call from foreign nationals to say we are being denied, we've been thrown out of hospitals, not just people from Lesotho, but we've heard that before, right? But in this case here, the people of Lesotho, the Lesotho nationals, are calling for interventions from the Lesotho government, as well as having discussions between the two countries. What's really happening? Let's get the thoughts of Pielo Setlabaka, the president of Lesotho's Democratic Congress Youth League. We'll appreciate you giving off your time, and thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Arthur, thank you very much. How are you, sir?
Yeah, very good indeed. So let's start with this. You saying that you have examples of Lesotho nationals from Lesotho being denied healthcare in South Africa. How widespread is it? Give me the data.
Oh, thank you, Arthur. In terms of the data, I did not compiled the numbers. But before we started this conversation, I was talking to the lady from Soweto. The lady from Soweto just confirmed to me that she was going to the hospital there, and she was being asked if she has the ID of South Africa or the passport of Lesotho. So while they found that they have the passport of Lesotho, they denied her to access the service there. So we are not yet have compiled the numbers, but we have found the reportings from different and various places in KwaZulu-Natal and also in Gauteng. We have also found the report that there are some Basotho who are being denied the health services there.
Okay, so fine. We don't need exact numbers, but your story that you just gave about the lady, that's one. I mean, do you have a sense of how widespread is it? What I'm saying roughly, is it 5 people? Has it happened to 20 people? 100 people? I'm just trying to understand how significant this is.
Okay, Alta. No, it's not just 5 people. It's many, because like I'm saying to you, there are some numerous reports that we get that Basotho are being denied the health services there. It's more than 20. It's more than 20.
Okay.
So that is what we found it not being, yes.
All right. What is when they've been denied healthcare in South Africa, and these are Lesotho or Basotho nationals in this case here, working, I would take it, in South Africa. What's been the reason? Why have they been denied? Have they been given a reason?
So the reason why we have just called upon our government here to come and talk to the government of South Africa is that we are seeking for the reason why they are being denied those services. Because as Basotho, we take or we treat South Africans as our brothers and sisters. We still have South Africans in this country, so we don't deny them any essential services. So we still don't know the valid reason, or the reason we still did not receive the reason why they are being denied those services.
But have they been told that they're being denied this because they are from Lesotho, that they are Basotho nationals, and they are not South African, and therefore they cannot be treated at that particular hospital?
Yes, the thing is that they are being denied because they are Basotho. Like I'm telling you that the lady said that this morning he was in Soweto hospital trying to access the services there. So he was not being allowed to access those services because they found that he has the passport, which means that passport give him shows that he is no more the South Africans.
Okay, I understand.
So we think the main reason is that they are being denied those services because they are Basotho.
Okay, I understand. And, this has been brought up by other nationals as well in the last few weeks who've also complained. And we understand, certainly from a human rights position in South Africa, that it is unconstitutional to be able to deny anybody the right to healthcare treatment in South Africa. What would be your next step now? I mean, if they're being denied this and it's unconstitutional in South Africa, what is your next step? What can you do from where you sit?
Okay, thank you very much, Arthur. So the next step is that we as the Youth League here in Lesotho, we are going to write to the government to appeal to the government of Lesotho to go and maintain or to go and resolve these issues with the government of South Africa, so that we may have the good relationship between among these citizens. So the next step is simple, that we are going to write to the government.
Okay, in your understanding, do you acknowledge, in terms of your understanding, that constitutionally they cannot be denied that right? Yeah.
even though constitutional, they are not going to allow it, but I think there must be the spirit of Ubuntu between Basotho and South Africans.
No, in fact, what I'm saying is
Because we
constitutionally it's
regarded them-
allowed in South Africa. South Africa's constitution does not allow us to reject a person who's in the country on the basis of the person coming from another country. The constitution does
I
not allow
get you
it.
now. Oh,
Mm.
I get you.
Yeah. So the fact that the constitution
so
doesn't allow
the-
it, what is your next plan of action? Besides writing, as you've said, I mean, can you
So-
do more?
Or the other action that I'm going to do, I think if we are going to go as far as writing to the government of South Africa, maybe to meet the ambassador of South Africa, try to give him the current situation and try to find how they can resolve that issue. Because, like I'm saying, we are the brothers and sisters. We are the South Africa is our neighbor country. We still have those South Africans which are in here in Lesotho. So I don't understand why South Africans do not allow Basotho to get those services in South Africa.
Okay. Who's preventing them? Is it the doctors, the nurses, or are there groups outside hospitals who are preventing them from actually being treated? Because there's also that growing sense of activism where groups have come together and say we will not allow foreign nationals in for treatment and the main reason is because they find that services are in short supply, that our medical and healthcare services can't cope.
Come again, sir. I don't get the question.
I was saying, okay, I'll tell you what you do. Let me get a response from you just after this.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Spar brings you 3 days of even more from 25 to 27 July. Get 800-gram Nescafe Recoffee Value Refill. Buy 2 for 200. Save 100 Rand. Or 1 litre Parmalat Everfresh Long Life Milk. 6-pack. Buy any 2 for 170. Save 60 Rand. It's 3 days of even more. 25 to 27 July. Only at Spar. While stocks last.
What is Overtrail? Is it off the beaten path, over the edge of comfort, or the thrill of the road less taken? It's over every bridge, every obstacle, every trail, and over to that view that takes your breath away. Overtrail means going further, exploring deeper, surrounded by the comfort and sophistication of a luxury SUV. It's this spirit that inspired the Overtrail project. Experience Overtrail in the LX and GX range. Lexus. Experience amazing.
The Super Falcons are close to making Mission X a reality. But 2022 finalists, the Atlas Lionesses, are back in the final. This time around, they want nothing but gold on home soil. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the spectacular final between Nigeria and Morocco this Saturday, 26 July at 7:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC3, and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, we're going to conclude our conversation regarding Lesotho and healthcare in South Africa. But you can call in immediately. Call in now. I'll take your calls now on that issue. WhatsApp, text or voice note 0614 104 107. And to call in live, it's 086 000 2032. What do you make of that Basotho nationals being turned away from healthcare treatment in South Africa? Is that the case? Is that the law? No. Is that the norm? Well, how normal is that? How regular is that? We're going to conclude with Pello Setlabaka. Right, so what I was asking you earlier on, who's stopping you? Is it the medical people or are there lobby groups outside the hospitals who are preventing you from going in?
The groups which are outside, which are on the gates. We have been told that there are groups, there are citizens of South Africa which are waiting on the gates of hospitals. That is the report that we have.
Okay, what I'm saying, are they stopping you, or is it the doctors?
They what?
Are the doctors preventing the treatment, or is it the lobby groups outside who are not allowing Basotho nationals to even enter the hospital gates?
Yes, I'm telling you that the groups which are outside the facilities, which are waiting on the gates. Okay. There are those who do not allow Basotho to enter the hospitals.
I got that.
We also have some videos. We also have some videos which are going around here, where those citizens do deny Basotho to access the services there.
Now, I mean, you're saying that you're going to write to government, but what about on a government-to-government level? What about your government anyway? Are they not speaking to South Africa about it?
Yeah, the first step we have done here in Lesotho, we are the youth league of the main opposition party. We have held the press conference to appeal to the government of Lesotho to talk to the government of South Africa. So we still believe that before we can even write, they can take the decision, or they can started the process of going to South Africa to try to resolve those issues.
Okay, just here's the last question.
But if there's nothing that they are doing, there is where we are going to write to them.
Okay. There's a question from Sipo from Silverton saying, what is Lesotho's policy when it comes to foreign nationals getting free healthcare? Meaning, what is Lesotho's position when South Africans come to Lesotho and they want free healthcare?
Here in Lesotho, we still allow South Africans to get the essential services. We don't deny them. We don't discriminate any other citizens in Lesotho. Okay. So we think, or we believe, also the South Africans should treat us the same.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Lots to consider from our conversation, and that's Peelo Setlabaka, the president of the Democratic Congress Youth League. So it's an opposition party and heading up the Youth League there in the Kingdom of Lesotho. This after there's been numerous reports of Basotho nationals in South Africa being denied healthcare. Much appreciate your time. We've certainly heard that sort of thing before from other nationals too. The question is, what is the law? The law doesn't prevent it. What about the governments between the two countries? Who's actually preventing them? The medical clinics, or is it actually the lobby groups that are doing the same? I mean, those are issues one must consider. Right, let's get to some of your calls just in a moment. I want to just pick up one of them. Right, we have a call and I can't quite... Okay, let's do this. We'll get to calls in a minute. I want to pick out some of your WhatsApp comments. Right, here's one.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Yeah, well, I guess it's becoming more and more clearer that this is about taking Israel to the ICJ from this issue of sending criminals to Swaziland to putting 50% tariffs on Lesotho and Lesotho nationals now training in terrorist camps to regain their territory, and now to blocking foreign nationals from getting health care. I guess America is deliberately agitating things in South Africa. Thanks, Lionel Witbank.
I'm not too sure I hear you correctly. Maybe I'm missing something. There's been an issue about Eswatini and American sending people there. There's been, you mentioned the ICJ. Where does that link up to the hospitals? Maybe I'm missing something.
That Ashraf, you see, this is what gets South Africans so agitated. A whole youth league of another country demanding healthcare from another country. It doesn't make sense. And where's the leadership? Why are the two governments not engaging? We know we get the water from the Lesotho government, we get the water, but they have to come in a certain way, diplomatically, and talk about this issue of this healthcare.
Well, I mean, I hear you, and that's really my point. Why would the governments not be talking to each other? Or foreign relations. I mean, that would be the first port of call rather than a youth league, right? But I mean, anybody's right to protest. I get that. Mbuzi in the Free State, hello.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf,
Yeah,
and
good afternoon.
Good afternoon to the listeners of SAFM.
Thank you.
Ashraf, my comment is very brief. I think the government, the ANC, the DA, the GNU, whatever we call it, they really need to reconsider the clause in the Constitution and its preamble that says South Africa belongs to all who live in it if there's an issue of cost. Now, we need to face it head on and say we can no longer, fulfill that promise. Because otherwise, if someone is blocking the Lesotho nationals from gaining medical services or whatever, then they are going against the very Constitution and the very spirit of that Constitution in our country.
Well, that's why it's unclear who's actually stopping them, and I certainly hear you, Mbuzi. Thank you for that. Whether that needs to change is another conversation, true. Mashego in Mpumalanga, go for it. Hello.
Afternoon, Ashraf.
Good afternoon. Yeah, thanks.
Ashraf, from my point of view, Ashraf, if you may remember, we have an agreement with Lesotho regarding the water supply to
yes,
part
we
of
do.
Gauteng.
Yeah.
Yes. So what I'm thinking is that with the case of the ICJ, I think the USA is putting more pressure on Lesotho in the form of imposing tariff of 50%. And also cutting for the foreign aid, which will bring the country into difficulty. And in that way, I believe that strategically, if South Africa don't look deep into this thing, the American might buy the supply of water there. Because America now, what they intend to do, if you look at their tariffs, they want to engage with countries that they will benefit. And the only thing from a small country as Lesotho that American can benefit, that they can weaponize it to South Africa, I believe is the water supply to South Africa, which will have a huge influence in terms of our foreign policy, because now there will be something strategical to South Africa that they control. That's my point from the way I say it.
Okay, got that. So there's a hospital issue, there's a water issue, there's tariffs, and there's the Americans agitating for something. I mean, they're not directly linked, but I hear you, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that even a lot more down the line. By the way, we will chat in a few minutes' time to Zenat Adam regarding the developments in Europe, with France now confirming they will recognize Palestine as a state in the next few weeks, in fact. Let's get the news headlines. It's just gone 3:30 years on Della.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the Development Bank of Southern Africa, DBSA, says it anticipates that the rebuilding of Parliament will be completed by the end of next year. A 39-year-old man, Clifford Ngwenya, has been sentenced to life imprisonment by the Ermelo Regional Court in Mpumalanga for raping his former landlord in 2021. And the German car manufacturer Volkswagen Group says tariffs introduced by U.S. President Donald Trump have cost the firm $1.5 billion this year. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng on the R512 in Hartbeespoort, a truck crash reported at the R101 Elias Motsoaledi Street Junction, and you asked to expect delays. The N1 southbound in Pretoria, a stationary truck reported after Rigel Avenue, and the N1 northbound in Midrand, a crash just before Allendale Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound queuing towards Cliffdale. In Cape Town, Jan van Riebeeck Drive southbound in Elsies River, slow moving towards Francie van Zyl Drive. Baden-Powell Drive northbound in Macassar, queuing towards the N2 highway, and Atlantic Road in Muizenberg is where stationary buses reported at the railway bridge. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
We had high hopes of Banyana winning the Women's African Cup of Nations tournament. That's not going to happen, but you still have news about them.
I really do. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and welcome back, and also a good afternoon to our listeners. Let's start things off with football, where Banyana star Jermaine Seopasenyo says that it will be a good consolation to return home with a bronze medal when they face Ghana in the WAFCON 3rd and 4th place playoff today. Seopasenyo says that the team is overall disappointed for failing to retain the title.
I mean, playing in the 3rd and 4th place is is disappointing, to say the least. But I think as professionals, we definitely just have to, step up and take the responsibility of what this match brings. At the end of the day, as African champions, going home with a medal would still be somewhat of a conciliation. But I think the team is still motivated. We're here and we have to accept where we are as a group, and still go out there and fight in our last match in this tournament. But yeah, I think just to reconcile for what has happened, and not making it to the final, not retaining our title, a bronze medal would suffice at the moment. There's nothing else we can play for.
So you can hear she is disappointed and the team overall. But I think the question that I have is that now that they're playing for bronze, does it mean that we don't support them? This morning I posted it's kind of like a preview on my social pages. And the sense I'm getting from people that are interacting with me, they're basically saying, they were beaten by the African giants. They just literally playing for something small.
But okay, look, I understand if they are deflated, as I would be too, as I am. But, I mean, support means you want them to lose if you don't support a team.
Yeah.
Is that the case?
Or maybe it means that it's not worth watching that third and fourth place.
Look, I've never been a fan of third and fourth place games.
Yes, but we find ourselves in this position.
No, I know, but it what I'm saying, you support them, of course, but does it carry the same currency? Obviously not.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not. I really do hope that they come back with the bronze medal. Kickoff is at 9 p.m. Meanwhile, Orlando Pirates have confirmed the exit of striker Zakele Lepasa. This is just a day after he spoke about his hunger for the game when the South African Football Association announced the Bafana Bafana squad to play in the Chant squad last night. They referred to Lepasa as an unattached player. Lepasa scored 20 goals in 64 matches at Pirates, a spell that was unfortunately undone by injuries.
I think for me, one thing that would mean a lot to me is to see myself on the field and wearing a football jersey and being able to get the first minutes of the season. It's something that I'm looking forward to. Obviously, I didn't play the whole season last season, but I've had an injury like that. The difference is that one had occurred in December, but I only came back the next December. So it's like I only missed the last part of the season and the first part of the season. So I never really felt like I was out for the whole season. And for me, this is the first time that this happens, and obviously it brings a lot of doubt in my football career. It brings a lot of doubt in my life as well, in terms of can I still try and be back and do what I can do best and maybe get back into the national team and all the goals that I've set for myself.
Meanwhile, Mamelodi Sundowns attacking talisman Lucas Ribeiro has linked up with the rest of the squad at their pre-season camp in Rustenburg. This is amid reported interest from Qatar, Saudi Arabia and Europe. Now, Ribeiro was instrumental for the Brazilians last season when they won their 8th successive league championship title, making him a strong contender for the Footballer and Players Player of the Season prizes at the PSL Awards on the 29th of July. In rugby, powerful Argentina lock Franco Molina penned a 2-year contract with the Western Force today, beefing up the Super Rugby side's tight 5 stocks. The 27-year-old joins the Perth-based team from England's Exeter Chiefs, where he was a regular feature last season. In athletics, Bayanda Walaza completed a sensational sprint double. This is at the 2025 World University Games in Germany, adding the 200-meter gold to his earlier 100-meter title. The 22-year-old crossed the line in 20.63 seconds last night, and Walaza had stunned the field earlier in the week with a 0.16 second win within the 100-meter final. Then in tennis, Britain's Emma Raducanu is through to the quarterfinals of the Washington Open. This is after beating 4-time Grand Slam winner Naomi Osaka in straight sets. The 22-year-old produced a dominant performance to claim a 6-4 and 6-2 win over Osaka. And next up for her is wildcard Maria Sakkari. And finally, in motorsport, McLaren's Oscar Piastri set a blistering pace in in the F1 P1 rather at that Grand Prix that is happening in Belgium. He clocked 0.40 seconds quicker than Max Verstappen's Red Bull, with the second McLaren of Lando Norris a further 0.1 seconds adrift. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
They both have a rich history of glory. Amakosi tackle the Porcupine Warriors.
This is as good as it gets.
This is the Toyota Cup.
The game you've been looking forward to on your football calendar.
Giants refuse to fall.
The big game.
The big game. On Saturday, 26 July at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus across the entire African continent and SABC One. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport in proud partnership with Kaizer Chiefs Football Club.
It all starts with advice from FNB Private. Because the perfect overseas trip starts with planning. Save and spend in multiple currencies with your FNB Global account and lock in exchange rates. Enjoy up to 40% off flights with eBucks Travel. And order Forex on the FNB app delivered to you at no extra cost. Your adventure awaits. Unlock invaluable with FNB Private. Help changes everything. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider. TC's own rules and limits apply.
Hear the rhythm, feel the heat at the Imbaula Music Festival in partnership with SAFM, where music, culture and community come alive. Join us on the 2nd of August 2025 at Pretoria Botanical Gardens from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. to vibe to Sanal musician Calvin Momo, Amanda Black, Zing Lumalo, Trompis, and many more. More than just music. Share stories, spark change, and unite against gender-based violence. Grab your tickets at imbaula.co.za. Brought to you by SAFM and SABC One. Hear the rhythm, feel the heat. Imbaula.
France and Palestine in just a moment, but in the meantime, get ready to embark on a thrilling journey of crime, redemption, and the pursuit of justice as Soon Comes Night premieres on SABC One. That's Sunday, 27th of July at around 8 p.m. It's a tale about liberation, hero turned heist king Alex Shabane in a 6-part drama. And the cast, amongst the people, Kwenzo Ngobo, Kenneth Nkosi, Albert Pretorius, Ditintle Kuno, Haosi Redi Tlolo, Aneliswa Pewa, Bahume Mklongo. So all of them and more, one man in search of justice, the other on a path to redemption.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
I'll tell you what, there's been a campaign, interestingly enough, regarding what's happening in Gaza, in Palestine, where, and it's coming from media houses, in fact, where there are numbers of journalists, actually, who are also starving, because the journalists who are now doing the beat, covering the story, they themselves are starving because, as you would be well aware, it's been documented, relief aid to that region has been cut off. So, to a large degree, so therefore people, the word being used is famine. But the point is, when we talk about the people of Gaza, the famine also then extends to people working the beat there, like journalists. So I just say that just as a separate issue to be aware of it, because there's been developments in that region. And we're going to talk to Zinat Adam about the position from France. Zinat Adam is the Deputy Executive Director at the Afro-Middle East Center. Appreciate you connecting to us on the National Pulse, Zinat.
Thank you for having me, Ashraf.
Thank you. I'm looking at Emmanuel Macron, the French leader's tweet, and there appear some contradictions. So I'll just read it out. He says, consistent with its historic commitment to a just and lasting peace in the Middle East, I have decided that France will recognize the state of Palestine. I will make this solemn announcement before the United Nations General Assembly this coming September. The urgent priority is to end the war in Gaza and to bring relief to the civilian population. Peace is possible. We need an immediate ceasefire, the release of all hostages, and massive humanitarian aid for the people of Gaza. we must also ensure the demilitarization of Hamas, secure and rebuild Gaza. And finally, we must build the state of Palestine, guarantee its viability, and ensure that by accepting its demilitarization and fully recognizing Israel, it contributes to the security of all in the region. There is no alternative. I'm not going to read more. There's a few paragraphs extra, but I won't go to that. Zinat, what do you make of that?
I think it's really missing the mark right now. While it does show some kind of good gesture from the French and being the only G7 country to be making such a pronouncement, it doesn't quite solve the situation that we're facing right now in Gaza, which is a weaponization of food, starvation of an entire population, the annexation. Currently 87% or 88% of Gaza is under Israeli military control. The Knesset in Tel Aviv has passed legislation to say that they will be annexing the rest of the West Bank, which means that there is no viable Palestinian state left. And him going to the United Nations to make such a pronouncement doesn't really help us right now. What needs to be done is that the entire global community has to apply pressure on Israel and on its suppliers, weapon suppliers, and France is one of them. The United Kingdom, the United States, and to enforce the idea that food has to get into Gaza right now. There has to be a ceasefire, and there has to be a withdrawal of the Israeli military from all of these places, including from the West Bank. This is the only way that a Palestinian state will be viable. But in the meanwhile, what we're hearing from Washington is that Steve Witkoff has returned from Doha, and they're putting the blame solely at the feet of Hamas, which contradicts what we've heard from the Qataris. The Qatari spokesperson, who has earlier this week indicated that the problems in terms of coming to a ceasefire deal lie solely with the Israelis, because those who have been sent to Doha to negotiate have not been given a mandate to sign on the dotted line for that ceasefire agreement, and what they actually want is control over Gaza.
Okay, so it's all, I mean, there seems to be lots of contradictions. Let's just take it one step at a time. The first part, the French recognition, whether it's belated or not, of the state of Israel. Sorry, let me get that right. Of the state of Palestine, right? I mean, whatever the intention, that is significant, isn't it?
It's significant in terms of the wording of it. So on a multilateral level, yes, it is one of the first G7 countries to take that position. But you have a few other European countries who have also shifted and said, we will recognize the state of Palestine. Where this is difficult is that does the state of Palestine, if you make mention of it internationally, does it technically exist? Because there is no sovereignty over land for Palestinians. What would be the technical value of a Palestinian state? And until and unless that can be demarcated, simply stating so at the United Nations is not going to materialize a Palestinian state.
Okay. And I mean, key to that is the call for a ceasefire and humanitarian aid. I think we know what that means, right? But in Macron tweeting about the need for a ceasefire, he doesn't establish the rules of that engagement, does he?
No, everyone calls for the ceasefire, and everyone is stating it needs to happen from a humanitarian basis, but there isn't actually an enforcement of that. And the frustration is that including those neighboring countries around Gaza, Egypt, for example, are complicit in stopping the aid from going across the border, keeping that border closed as respect to their relationship with Israel. Jordan is not allowing any aid to go across. You now have humanitarian organizations that are begging for some aid to go in. We know that the Americans have funded and supported the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which has actually been complicit, and we've seen the footage come live across our screens from the journalists stating that they have actually, they call people to a certain site and then they open fire on them when these are starving human beings. We're looking at skeletal remains of people who are falling apart. You're talking about journalists that one of them collapsed the other day while still reporting. It is the worst genocide and humanitarian catastrophe of our time, and there is no intervention from the international community, and the United Nations is completely paralyzed by the veto at the UN Security Council. So there's absolutely no punitive measures against Israel.
So in the light of what you've said, I mean, and you know many people listening, there are many who hold that view of the ICJ position of this being a genocide, right? Even if it's preliminary, and others feel it's a genocide anyway. But there are many others who are listening say that is not the case. This whole thing has been exaggerated. What is very clear now is the issue of the famine, as you've mentioned, and you know, whether aid has been either cut off or it's been used as a booby trap to actually kill other people. But the word demilitarization, I think, was used twice in their tweet, and both of them referred to the call of a demilitarization from the Hamas side. What's your understanding of that? Because it talks of one place, or one grouping, and not the other.
Ashraf, I've just said to you and to the listeners, 88% of Gaza is under Israeli military control. The rest of the area is under these conclaves that they are creating almost as concentration camps. So to lay this simply at the feet of Hamas is really problematic at its outset. And this is where the ceasefire negotiations are failing, because not only are international humanitarian organizations and states asking for this to be enforced with urgency, but also you have those whose families have who have had hostages in Gaza who have been released, and even those who are still being held as prisoners of war are saying the time has come for us to make sure that the ceasefire agreement takes place. What is happening in Doha, and what has happened, and it's now stalled, is that Israel is saying that we will not withdraw from Gaza even if we get the hostages back, and what we want is a complete elimination of Hamas. But then they turn around, and we hear it over and over again from Israeli ministers saying that everyone, including the children, are Hamas. So until when are we going to see this? It's an ethnic cleansing, and whether we want to agree that it's a genocide or not, it is happening before our eyes, and we're using semantics to now come and decide whether or not people live or die. I think we've reached the point of no return, and this is going to be on the conscience of those European states who have supported and been complicit, and not just on them, but on all of the states surrounding Gaza, including the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, who have been allowing this to take place without taking strong intervention.
All right, just the last thing, the point you made about the Knesset. So while we're talking about this, the Knesset voting, in fact, for further annexing of land in what is now the West Bank, right? What implications would that have? And very quickly, has there been any negative response to that from anybody? I'm talking about world leaders, to say you cannot do that.
World leaders are simply sitting back and allowing Israel to do whatever it wants to and making excuses for it. And we really, as an international community and as humanitarians, we are tired of hearing this. But what has been happening concurrently while they've been militarizing Gaza, they have been proceeding with annexation in West Bank. And now it's been passed as a legal issue within their legislature and within the Knesset as the parliament. That means that they're going to increase their settlements, and that means that they are going to eliminate any possibility of a Palestinian state being formulated. Again, that means that there's going to be ethnic cleansing of Palestinians from the West Bank.
Zeenat, Adam, thanks for that. And of course, in the midst of that, the Macron point about we would recognize the state of Palestine. Well, for the first time saying so. It's all very confusing. Zeenat Adam, thanks for your time. Deputy Executive Director at the Afro-Middle East Center. Your comments, your reaction on Lesotho and on Palestine, Israel, welcome. This is the National Pulse.
The soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay.
Some songs take you back instantly to your first love, a road trip, or just simpler times. The soundtrack of your life with me, Ernest Pillay, is where timeless hits and forgotten favorites come together to tell your story. It's not just music, it's memories, moments, and the meaning behind this jam.
Don't you change someone by night.
Rediscover the songs that shaped your journey. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 p.m., only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Standing on his
listening to SAFM Radio this Mandela Month.
It is in your hands now.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Okay, so from matters in the Middle East to things back home, and there are problems back home as well on a whole range of issues. In fact, it is in the midst of that sort of problems that occurs in our country that we now hear about a social justice initiative called Social Impact with Pearl. What's that about? Why is there a need for a social impact with Pearl movement of sorts? Let's find out from Pearl herself, Pearl Walsh, the founder of Social Impact with Pearl. Pearl, good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Yeah. So I understand this has been launched a couple of days ago, yesterday in Cape Town. Why so?
Ashraf, it's actually been a little bit longer standing than yesterday. Yesterday, I just took the courage to make sure that it starts happening, whether I had the people's support or not. The initiative has been a long-term vision and small constructive impact and support from my personal capacity where I could in order to help the community and fight for justice, because I find that many people do not have the voice to be able to voice their opinion, and they're being silenced all the time. So partly why I founded the initiative yesterday is because I've been having a long-standing legal battle in the High Court of the Western Cape. And the system has failed us. This interview is about the injustices, the misconduct, corruption, and all the obstruction happening in the Western Cape High Court at the moment. And I think it's not just our Western Cape High Court, it's all the courts. And it seems to have become a global issue.
Often when people get involved in social justice organizations or movements, it is fueled very often by their own lived experiences. I mean, did that happen to you too?
Ashraf, yes, I've been motivating safety and security for women. I've spoken with the National Prosecuting Authority. I've been part of maintenance groups. And I've been standing up because maintenance is a primary part of the future of our children. When people get divorced, when relationships go sour, it doesn't matter whether they're in life partnerships or married or going through a divorce. But the primary aspect of the livelihood is how women or men, doesn't matter who's got more of the monetary favor, and the children that suffers because our courts fails to actually prioritize maintenance as a way forward so that people can balance their lives.
So tell me more about the levels of frustration, because I mean here it is every day, and there's changes around South Africa state security, significant changes and conversations in the last couple of days, weeks, including an inquiry into who does what, right? Are you suggesting that there's a large enough number of people who feel effectively shortchanged or hard done by for many reasons for them to want to take the issues up with the judiciary or the social or the justice system, and they've been turned away to the point of absolute frustration?
Ashraf, yesterday before the High Court, there were 5 different people, lay litigants, which have been into that court, came out totally ill-treated. I advised the one lady, I said, go back to the registrar, go and ask her for copies of your information, because this is a public organ. You are entitled to access to your information. If you were illegally evicted, unlawfully, and you were not presented papers and you were not able to represent yourself in court, even if you had no legal representation, you are entitled to, whether it's legal aid, legal wise, or even pro bono services from the Law Practice Council. But daily I see people coming out of the High Court frustrated, not just lay litigants. This court is supposed to be for all litigants and access to the courts for fairly impartial justice, for the law to be applied to them. The rule of law must be upheld by each and every judge for both parties to be able to argue and ventilate the matters. But people are dismally failed. They are being ill-treated. I personally encountered corruption and obstruction by registrars, which I can mention by name, but I've taken it up personally with the JSE. Judges who have made orders that have been biased, they've been prejudiced in favor of big law firms because they prioritize the lawyers. I feel that this whole legal system has become monetized and favors the wealthy. I'm up against my opposing lawyer is from a director from Bergsman's law firm. He's been the same lawyer on the Steinhoff international tax fraud and the lawyer of Marcus Jooste, where they have defrauded hundreds and thousands of South Africans with their pension fund, purely abusing the system with legal tactics, delayed tactics, favoring their clients and bending over the rules backwards for their clients, not upholding the rule of law. And I find personally the Law Practice Council, I've been dealing with the head of department, Mr. Craig Lucas, as well. They fail not just me, every other citizen dismally. The system doesn't function. They cover up for these big law firms. I've had an acting judge pretending that a senior counsel pretending that he's an acting judge. He was not officially sworn in on the High Court role, and this seems to be more of a popularity nowadays, where I see and I hear other lawyers talking on the street as to what has happened to them. These acting judges or senior counsels that pretend they're acting judges, there's a process for them to be sworn in.
Okay.
And I personally had an incident in January where one of my matters were forced on an urgent role. My opposing lawyer, of course, gets the priority because I'm representing myself. I've had legal counsel before, but of course what they do is they saturate you financially so you can't fight them. I've maintained the stance that I'm going to fight them. It doesn't matter how long it takes me. It is not just for me, it's for me and hundreds and thousands of other women. The system fails not just women, men, and people of less fortunate people as well that is not able to access the system.
All right, Pearl, so then just to conclude, here's the thought. You're going very public with it yesterday, right? You have, and you can be 30 seconds on this one. What are your specific demands and what would be for you the outcomes that would please you and supporters of social impact with Pearl? But you've got 30 seconds to answer that.
Ashraf, the fact is I've pledged to the Minister of Justice, I've pledged to the Parliament as oversight body to make sure that these government organs function. These government organs fails our people. The Parliament fails our Constitution and our human rights because the judges have become more privy to their own bias and favor to the own lawyers that they are associated with, which fails our people. I feel that the rule of law is not being upheld. The Constitution fails the people, the human rights, and there is no equality before the courts.
Okay, that's where we can leave it. So lots to consider if this is the opening public salvo in Pearl Walsh's fight on behalf of many other people with social impact with Pearl. Thanks for your time, Pearl Walsh, the founder of Social Impact with Pearl. Let's get the news now. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, hopes that Parliament will be rebuilt by the end of the year, and Volkswagen profits down amid US tariffs. For SAFM News, I am Ondela, and a very good afternoon. The Development Bank of Southern Africa, DBSA, says it anticipates that the rebuilding of Parliament will be completed by the end of next year. The bank was commissioned to do reconstruction work of the parts of the institution that was damaged by fire in 2022. The multi-billion rand project includes the refurbishment of the burnt old Assembly building and the new National Assembly. Initially, about 2 billion rand was set aside for the project. However, now it is expected to cost just under 4.5 billion rand. Group Executive for Infrastructure at DBSA, Chwene Rampele, has told Parliament that the construction should be completed by November next year and the buildings will be ready for use thereafter.
At that point, we're looking at commissioning the building. In particular, we're looking at November 2026. So at that time, the building would be practically complete at 95%. When we say practical completion, it means it can really be used. And we will then, with the 5%, somebody can say, what is then going to happen with the 5%? It's just basically to then say, we would have identified some one or two few snacks that needs to really be dealt with. But in terms of what we anticipate to do is to say, once then the building can be used, and then probably around January, we then will just be making sure that the little snacks that which we call the snack list is being addressed.
The Pestalozzi Trust has filed a constitutional court challenge against the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act. According to the Trust, Parliament failed to allow sufficient public participation, resulting in a flawed and potentially unconstitutional law. The Trust says for participation to be meaningful, there needs to be an adequate notice of public hearings, proper education about the bill's contents, and adequate time for the public to express their views. They claim these requirements were not fulfilled. The Trust spokesperson, Chris Cordero.
This is a procedural case, and we're very fortunate in that the court issued a very strong judgment in, I think it was 2023, in a case called the Mohale case, or the Traditional and Khoisan Leaders Act case, where a very similar process was conducted. There are very many similar flaws, and the Constitutional Court struck that act down on the basis that there had not been this opportunity for meaningful engagement, that Parliament didn't fully consider the views of the public in that case. So that's very much on a procedural basis, the case that we're kind of following.
A 30-year-old man, Clifford Ngwenya, has been sentenced to life imprisonment by the Ermelo Regional Court in Mpumalanga for raping his former landlord in 2021. NP provincial spokesperson Monica Nyuswa says Ngwenya denied the rape allegations, claiming he and the victim met at a tavern and later argued over money. Nyuswa says the court rejected Ngwenya's claims.
Neighbors, alerted by her screams for help, rushed to the scene and found her severely assaulted, with the accused still inside the house. When confronted, Ngwenya fled the scene by jumping out of a window. Members of the community chased and apprehended him before handing him over to the police. Ngwenya was further declared unfit to possess a firearm, and his name was ordered to be entered into the National Register for Sex Offenders.
The Proteas are visiting Langa on the Cape Flats, the hometown of their captain, Themba Bavuma, as part of their victory parade after they won the World Test Championship at Lord's in London. The captain's homecoming honours the people of Langa, where Bavuma's journey began. Bavuma spoke during the parade.
Thank you to everyone that came through. Thank you again to the council. Thank you again to Cricket South Africa for making this happen. And thanks again for the players for walking this journey with me.
The German car manufacturer Volkswagen Group says tariffs introduced by U.S. President Donald Trump have cost the firm about $1.5 billion this year. The U.S. imposed an additional 25% tariff on vehicle imports in early April and a similar levy on parts a month later. The BBC's Theo Leggett has more.
The impact of US tariffs has come at a time when Volkswagen is already feeling the effects of profound changes in the motor industry worldwide, including the transition to electric cars and a surge in competition from Chinese manufacturers. The new 25% levies on cars and parts were introduced in April and May, and according to the company were a major factor in its operating profits for the first half of the year, falling by a third to $7.8 billion. The chief executive, Oliver Blumer, said the company could not assume the situation was only temporary and would have to accelerate its efforts to cut costs.
Recapping the top story, the Development Bank of Southern Africa, DBSA, says it anticipates that the rebuilding of Parliament will be completed by the end of next year. The bank was commissioned to do reconstruction work of the parts of the institution that was damaged by fire in 2022. I'm Mondela Mbana for SFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In sports, the Sawa Proteas Parade World Test Championship mazed through Langa, and I chat to Springbok woman captain Babalwa Laja about how the team is gearing up for the Women's Rugby World Cup next month. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Midrand has a stationary vehicle reported before Samrand Road. The N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview queuing on both routes towards Giluli's interchange. The N3 southbound in Germiston has a crash reported before Rand Airport Road, and Bears-Nordeer Drive northbound in Melville has a crash reported before Thomas Barler Street. In KZN, the N3 westbound has heavy traffic reported towards Hammersdale. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend, the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, and the M5 northbound slow moving towards the N1 Kuburg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So, I've got a book in my hand, and the book says, Business by Grace, How I Built a World-Changing Advertising Business with 2,000 rands. It's been written by Zibusiso Mkwanazi with the help of Dr. Stephen Zwane. Both people I'm very privileged to know on many levels, but the important part is that Zibusiso Mkwanazi, who's the founder of Avatar Agency and the group CEO of M&N Brands, well, he's my fireside chat just now. So, 5 o'clock, 5 to 6, do not miss that. You will be inspired. We'll also talk to Isaac Mangena from City Power. There's issues about electricity protests and disconnections in the Tsepitsong region in the West Rand. But let's get to another issue that has been so puzzling. It demands attention, really. The Airports Company of South Africa issued a statement yesterday stating that they are taking firm steps following a serious security breach at OR Tambo International Airport. This after a passenger was found in possession, and you need to hear this, okay? A passenger was found in possession of 2 training hand grenades in Ethiopia. But the passenger, I understand, has a link to South Africa or coming from South Africa, found in Ethiopia. So let's understand more of what actually happened here. With me is the president of the South African Cabin Crew Association, Advocate Christopher Shabangu. Christopher, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your viewers.
Thank you.
To your listeners.
Give us the context of what you understand it from the South African, representing the South African Cabin Crew Association.
Look, from what we understand, it's actually what everybody does, which is there was a passenger that went through security, and they were carrying these 2 grenades, which we later obviously now found out that they were training grenades all the way to Ethiopia. And what is important is that they actually went through AXA security, which is amazing, really, to be honest.
So, okay, what is a training grenade?
To me, that sounds like an army thing. For me, and the information that we've received is that those grenades are grenades that are used in the army. They simulate the same weight of the grenade, the real grenade. It will also, push out the same sound of what a real grenade would in a live situation. So that's what we know for now.
Now, and I'm not really, I understand maybe I should speak to someone else about this part, but how grenadey is that grenade? Can one call it an actual grenade? Meaning, what I'm saying is, besides the noise, does it explode? Can it cause damage?
Of course. You see, the fact that it is prohibited, there's many things that I could use as an example. You can carry certain items that might just give a certain explosion. For example, a simple aerosol can, the sprays that we use for perfume, aerosol can. It's not allowed really in the aircraft because of the explosion or because of the impact of the explosion it may have. Now imagine if it's a grenade. It is absolutely not, I can tell you now, it's absolutely not allowed to be in the aircraft, let alone to be in a passenger bag, to be in a passenger aircraft, whether you put it in a cargo hold or you put it inside the aircraft, in a passenger area, you can't have that. It was a serious breach. It is something that we actually need to look at and investigate properly, and people need to be held accountable, because today we could be talking a different language with people with lives lost. You know what I mean?
Well, absolutely. So let's go back to the origin. So we're saying this person who carried it, the flight originated from South Africa. That's why it's important to us, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then in terms of the airport companies' investigations of taking firm steps. Where do they lay the blame for this?
As far as we understand, they're laying the blame on a company that they have employed to deal with security, which is ACL. And they believe that they should be the ones that are responsible for it. Now, we understand that CAA, Civil Aviation Authority, have already imposed a fine of 2 million rand to AXA, which I think is correct, or we think it's correct, because AXA is the one that accounts to CAA. It's not any other third party that would account to CAA. So they are responsible. They're the ones that are supposed to be dealing with security at the airport. Whatever other issues that they may have, because one of the reasons that I had this morning is that ACL claims that AXA blocked them from getting new equipment that can scan better, or at least has improved technology. That is not an excuse. You cannot come and say we couldn't do this. We are contracted with AXA to improve security, but AXA does not want us to improve that security. It does not make any sense to me. So AXA has to take responsibility. They must deal with this, investigate it properly. Were the people that allowed this grenade trained? Did they even see it through their scanners? That's very important to us. It is important because, of course, we've got members that are working on aircrafts, but it's also important because we've got passengers that are making the airline industry to be what it is today.
So where does the Cabin Crew Association come into all of this?
What we are concerned about really is that cabin crew have got a duty to play. One of the things that they're supposed to do, if I were to inform you, is that in the aircraft, before you come in, they have to do a security check, and they're looking for exactly this. Things that are, like your grenades, as I may put it that way, things that are out of place within the aircraft. Before you come into the aircraft, the cabin crew are checking for such things. Now, when they come in, or when the passengers start to board the aircraft, it's quite difficult for cabin crew to even see this, and it is then incumbent upon the security to make sure that everything that the passenger brings into the aircraft is safe. Now, in this case, that was not the case. How the cabin crew gets in here is that then their lives are in danger, are in jeopardy, just because airport company didn't do their part. And the passengers' lives are in danger because airport company didn't do their part.
So can the cabin crew themselves, your association, do you have any recourse as well?
What we would do, what we are planning to do for now, is to request for a report on any investigation by AXA, because we believe they should do that investigation and give us a report, of course, because we are interested parties in this whole thing. We need to know, and obviously, I would assume, or I would think at the moment, that even other airlines, actually even domestic airlines, they would want to have some kind of a report as to what is happening, what is the investigation, or what are the findings of the investigation, and what is the way forward. How are they going to improve on security and scanners at the airport?
I mean, I'm looking at the statement, that was sent by the airports company. There's nothing that talks about the person, like who is that person and what has happened to him or her.
So you mean in terms of the person that was the passenger that was carrying the grenade?
Yes, that's right.
They wouldn't have. I doubt if they would have, Ashraf, because the passenger was caught in Ethiopia from South Africa, so they wouldn't have. In other words, they would obviously plead ignorance in this case, because the grenades are gone, whatever. So there's a lot of scenarios here that one would want to think about really, because I say this is important. First of all, OR Tambo, King Shaka, Cape Town, and I think Lanseria, those are national key points. The national key points. That is why then it is important that we have this investigation so that we understand what happened. How did this breach take place, and all of the stuff. It is quite important. And they cannot say, if they don't know, then they obviously would get the information from Ethiopian Airlines, because that person is being caught in Ethiopia, and then conduct their investigation from there. Is it possible that maybe there was a security person that actually saw these grenades, and they were given a simple explanation that they were training grenades they can go in? We all have to find out, know about what's happening, about all of that.
I mean, I do know that ACS has accepted some liability for the incident, and they've taken disciplinary action against the employees involved. But I mean, is that enough? What's the big lesson to learn from this?
What's the big lesson to learn mostly for airport companies, that most of their airports are quite huge. I mean, they're like 4 kilometers minimum, in terms of just the perimeter of just Johannesburg, or our Tambo International Airport. It's quite a huge. If one person can be able to go through a proper channel and go through with grenades, and what if they were just maybe even doing a dry run for something bigger? They have to now, improve their security, not of scanners only, but around the parameters of all the airports. They must make sure that it is that secure. For the sake of the passengers and for the sake of even the cabin crew and the pilots that are working there, for everyone that is using the airport, those parameters need to be, reinforced in terms of security. When it comes to the equipment that they're using at the airport, there is no excuse. They're making enough money to be able to have top of the range equipment that they should be using at the airport. We shouldn't be having these conversations for a country like South Africa.
Just the last thing, so this issue happened, we found out about it last week. Do you think there's been enough alarm about it, or has it been largely muted, and surprisingly so?
No, surprisingly, to be honest with you, no, there has not been enough exposure. And there should be. Because we're talking when we talk about this. The more we talk about this, we alert people to be aware of what is happening around them. Even yourself, when you're checking, somebody's being checked in front of you. Even you see something that is suspicious, and you can tell that to me looks suspicious. First, as a South African, second, as a passenger, you can talk to security and say, "But how come you're letting that thing go?" So we should be talking about it. Authorities have to be held. People that are in power have to be held accountable in terms of airport company. All of those people need to step up. It does not necessarily mean that really after somebody needs to be fired. I'm not saying that. I'm simply saying that this says to airport company, improve your security, improve your equipment that you have. Let us talk about it. Let people be aware. A lot of people are flying these days. Let us talk about that. Let us make sure that.
Well, I would think that type of security is an absolute non-negotiable. Let's leave it at that. Advocate Christopher Shabangu, the president of the South African Cabin Crew Association. Thank you for your time. Now, what about your response on that? You heard that story of this person carrying a training grenade, but a grenade all the same, from South Africa to Ethiopia, and was picked up in Ethiopia. What a bizarre story, but also so scary. And to think it's happened in our country, how can we allow it? We'll think about it and what should be done about it next. We'll also talk about issues of disconnecting of illegal connections in the West Rand after this.
The Morning Brief.
I think a starting point is you sharing with us what your experience is of the strike's impact on flight operations this morning.
Yes, absolutely. It's with deep regret that we've had to cancel some flights today. Although we had commitments from pilots to operate these flights, several of them withdrew those commitments late last night, which has unfortunately necessitated the cancellation of a number of flights. And of course, we sincerely apologize to those affected customers. We've sent messages to all of those using the details that we were provided at the time of booking to advise them of the changes, and our teams are of course on standby to assist any passengers that need assistance at the airports, and of course to expedite any refunds so that people can make alternative travel arrangements.
That's Kirby Gordon. He speaks on behalf of Fly South Air.
Tulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. This Mandela Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit of Ubuntu, calling on all South Africans to engage, uplift, and do good for one another. Let's share what we have, lend a helping hand, and honor Madiba's legacy through kindness and action. Join SAFM as we bring you powerful conversations, inspiring stories, and voices that drive change all month long. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
So, you know what's happening on Sunday evening? It'll be episode 3 of Chasing the Sun. That's that fabulous 5-part documentary about the Springboks and their tale and their rise to winning from defeat of the previous year to the All Blacks to actually winning the World Cup in 2019. So, and you know, not only can you watch it on traditional television, if you stream it by downloading the SABC Plus app, you then stream it anytime, anywhere, no subscription needed. So don't miss it. Chasing the Sun, it happens this Sunday, episode 3 at 7:30 p.m. on SABC 2.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
Okay, so I tell you what, you have no lights, it's volatile. You have lights, it's volatile. Depends which perspective you take it from. And there's certainly a big debate about energy. Now, City Power, I understand, had to abandon their plans to disconnect illegal connections in Tshepisong in the West Rand. So that was the plan. It was abandoned. Why? That's after police warned them of the volatile situation that they will find themselves in should they go ahead. Wow, what do you make of that? Isaac Mangena with me, City Power spokesperson. Isaac, it's always good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon and good afternoon to the listeners of SAFM.
Okay, is my introduction analysis correct that in fact there was a plan to disconnect and then you were told effectively to hold back because it would spark off something even bigger?
Yeah, so basically yesterday we had planned to disconnect illegal connections in the...
Okay, Isaac, do I have you there? Isaac, do I have you there?
Can you hear me? Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was saying that there was a plan to disconnect power in Tshepisong yesterday, and that was basically we were advised against continuing with it by the SAPS because yesterday they did not have enough manpower for us to be able to move into Tshepisong. This is after we have switched off the area for about a week, and us removing the illegal connections was basically one of the first steps before we can basically reinstate power. However, I must say, Ashraf, that we managed to move in today on Friday, where the police basically managed to pack some manpower to assist us in terms of the removal of the illegal connections. And we have completed that removal as I'm talking to you. Actually, I'm on my way from Tshepisong, where we were basically having this operation, and we will basically be restoring electricity in the coming few hours.
Okay, so you've disconnected, to be clear, illegal connections, right? But in doing so, did you have to also disconnect legal connections at the same time and then reconnect them, just so that I understand what you're saying?
Yes, so because the illegal connections on their own are unsafe to operate in. So as you know, City Power is operating in a really regularized environment. So for us to start switching on electricity after a week of no electricity in Tshepisong, we had to basically deal with the issues of illegality on the ground, sweep the ground so that there are no illegal connections. Because of even if we forced to switch on with the illegal connections, the network was just going to overload and trip, and we were still going to go back to square one. But also the fact that we have infrastructure that also blows up when it overloads due to these illegal connections that have not been catered for as part of the electricity supply to Tshepisong area. But yes.
So what's changed about the volatility of yesterday versus the volatility or the lack of volatility today from the public?
So Ashraf, maybe as a background, so Tshepisong has not had electricity for the past week, and this is because of the threat that they meted against our technicians as we moved in to try to do some maintenance work in Tshepisong, but also to try and normalize the network in that area. So our teams were threatened, harassed, but also they were held hostage against their will by the community as they were trying to move out of Tshepisong. So because of that, City Power decided to basically disconnect or switch off electricity. And they've been off for the past week. And in between, we had several back and forth meetings with the community representatives through the ward councillors and others, so that we can then agree on how we are going to operate going forward in that area. So one of the things that we managed to agree on was the fact that we cannot operate in an area where there are illegal connections, but also, secondly, that the community of Tshepisong needs to start buying electricity. Because currently, as I'm talking to you, only 3% of the residents of Tshepisong are buying electricity, and that 3% is mainly the businesses like your City Garage and Pick n Pay there. So this is the community where, if I can give you an example, since the year started, we replaced about 20 transformers that were either blew up or because of overloading, or they were vandalized by the very same community. And each one of those transformers is costing about 400,000 each. And this is the money that we are not even recouping from the community because of the non-payment in the area. So part of the condition for us to restore was that our teams will be allowed to move in, normalize the network, and then install the meters or replace those that have been vandalized or bypassed, and then be able to have the communities that buying electricity.
Okay, just so that there's no ambiguity on this, you said 3% of the community in that region that Tshepetsong has electricity or has legal electricity?
They are buying. They are basically vending. So we are getting some revenue from only 3%.
Okay,
the rest
I understand
are basically freeloading from electricity.
Okay. Now, I mean, there could be all sorts of reasons for that. I mean, first of all, I get it's illegal, but there's all sorts of reasons. Clearly, that position is not sustainable. That only 3% paying is a problem for City Power, obviously, but also no lights in the community is also a problem for the community. It's got all sorts of social ills and criminal elements to that. But linked to that is the obvious issue of mass poverty and inequality in our country, and this is an example of that. So what I'm asking is, you've had to do what you had to do now, but even that's not sustainable. What would be the win-win solution? You're looking at the reality of the people of that region.
Yes, indeed, and we were the first to accept that electricity is very expensive, not only to our residents but also to ourselves as City Power. Remember, we buy this electricity from Eskom, about 19 billion rand that we pay annually to Eskom for electricity, and often you find that most of that electricity is basically lost because of the things like illegal connections and also other issues like load shedding, obviously, when there is load shedding. So this is why we are basically trying to force most of those that we know that can actually afford electricity to also come on board so that they can be able to assist City Power in terms of buying of electricity. But also we are aware and cognizant of the fact that there are majority of the people, especially in the non-affluent areas, who are either unemployed or they are employed earning less, or they are also receiving other social packages like SASSA. And as such, we have opened up the registration for free basic electricity so that we can be able to assist them in terms of that 50 kilowatt hour of electricity, so that at least they can be able to get some relief in terms of this electricity. We are aware and agree that it is also not enough, and we are talking to the national government. I think the Minister of Electricity and Energy, Dr. Hossein Zoramogopa, is also considered to this effect that the 50 kilowatt hour free electricity is not enough to basically cover the basics, and as such, there is a talk for basically to push it to at least 100 kilowatt hours, so that at least even the indigent do not find themselves having to go and still buy electricity during the month.
And just the last thing as we wrap up, so what is the mood of the people now? Like, what are they feeling?
So the people, basically what we got from the ground is that this is what they wanted. Obviously, there are those that are illegal. So there are informal settlements around Tshepetsong, in the Ratongville and other areas, who do not have legalized electricity. So they're stealing this electricity. So there are those that are formalized RDP houses and also bonded houses in Tshepetsong itself, and those are happy that we are removing these illegal connections, because these are also inconveniencing them. Even when there is proper supply of electricity, because of illegal connections, there are frequent trips that happen, and half the time they don't have electricity because of these illegal connections. So they were really happy that we are doing this. Obviously, those that are illegally connected in the informal settlements were not really happy about this. And I think we will basically start monitoring every week, so that if there is any reconnection, people can obviously get arrested, and then we can.
And that's where we leave it. Isaac Mangena from City Power, the spokesperson there. Thank you for your time. I tell you what, if anybody has a genuine solution around the issue of connection versus the inability of people to pay for it versus the need to actually have connectivity, I'd love to know. You're connected. You really are to the National Pulse. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, KwaZulu-Natal Premier Taminduli says he's demanded a formal explanation from 2 MECs of his provincial cabinet after their names were linked to corruption allegations. The Hawk says it does not rule out the possibility of arresting other persons of interest in relation to the burning of Parliament in 2022, and Israel says it will soon permit Jordan and the United Arab Emirates to resume airdropping humanitarian supplies to Gaza as the countries had done last year. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg House.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound has a crash reported before Buccleuch interchange. The N1 southbound in Pretoria has a crash before Rigel Avenue. All lanes are open and power outages reported, with traffic lights not working in multiple junctions in both Bryanston and Midrand. In KZN, the N3 eastbound slow moving at Marion Hill Toll Plaza. The N3 westbound has a stationary truck reported at Key Ridge, and the N3 eastbound in Camptown, a stationary truck near Umlaas Road. In Cape Town, the R300 southbound in Delta has a crash reported. That's before the N2 highway. The N2 outbound slow moving towards Bunga Avenue, and Hout Bay Main Road northbound queuing towards Constantia Neck. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, Tumi, you've got lots to say, but let's start with cricket.
Yeah, Themba Bavuma and his Proteas teammates are parading the World Test Championship maze through the streets of Langa. The World Test Championship maze basically officially begins today in Cape Town, and Bavuma says that he hopes this will inspire more children from Langa and neighbouring communities to pursue their sporting ambitions. Then in rugby, the Springbok women are currently working around the clock to prepare themselves for the next month's Rugby World Cup in England. Now, the squad is currently in Cape Town and they're gearing up for 2 crucial warm-up matches against the Black Ferns 15 at Athlone Stadium over the next 2 Saturdays. Their World Cup pool includes Brazil, Italy and France. And on the line, I am joined by Baba Lalaja, who's the Springbok woman captain, just to find out how the preparations are going so far. Baba, thank you very much for giving us your time. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you very much for having me. I'm quite well, thank you. Good afternoon or evening to your listeners as well.
I mean, we can say that now it's crunch time, and I did highlight that you guys are working around the clock to prepare yourselves for the World Cup. How are those preparations shaping up?
Well, those preparations are shaping up quite well. We've come off the back of 2 test matches against Canada, and that gave us a really good indication as to how far we've come and how far we are really. And I think that going into the the game against the Ferns tomorrow, that will be another good challenge for us to ensure that we're as prepared as we can be going into the World Cup.
I mean, with you guys facing the Black Ferns, what kind of benchmark do you think these matches are going to give you as a squad?
I think the key thing is for us to, again, be as well prepared as we can be in order for us to compete well in our pool and beyond at the World Cup. So it's great to have a challenging side such as the Black Ferns to truly put us through our paces and be able to test our systems so that we ourselves can have the confidence to say that we well prepared as best as we can be.
Are there any specific areas that you're hoping to test or improve?
I think what's the key thing really is to do what we do well. We pride ourselves in our set pieces, and we'd like to test those set pieces against some of the best teams in the world, which are the Black Ferns, for instance. Yeah. I think that off of the back of the Canadian tests, we've identified key areas of concerns, which one of them were the breakdown, which we've worked quite around the clock, as you put around in getting right. And I think that that area will be tested quite well as well, and we can give ourselves a mark of that.
Well, wishing you nothing but the best for this weekend. But you've spoken before about the pride of representing South Africa. How would you describe the kind of support, though, that you're receiving, specifically from the Springbok women's side, in terms of you guys getting ready, looking at SA Rugby, sponsors, and the fans as a whole?
I think women's rugby in South Africa as a whole has gained a good amount of momentum, and we're looking to leverage on that momentum and to continue to grow South African or Springbok women's rugby. I think that the likes of FNB, who are our primary sponsors, Coca-Cola as well, have come on board because I think they understand the importance of supporting women's sport across the board, and really happy that they're on board. But I think that there's loads more potential for women's rugby across the board, or even women's sport across the board, to be able to get all stakeholders on board for us to continue to elevate women's rugby and women's sport in our country.
What would be your message then to South Africans as you guys prepare to take on the world at the rugby?
Well, first is to thank them for their unwavering support, and that may it long continue. And we need their support now more than ever as we take on the world. Starting off on tomorrow at 5 o'clock at Atlas Stadium. They should come out and support or catch it on SuperSport. I think that it's so important that they continue to support us, and we love and appreciate all South Africans who do support.
Babalwa, thank you very much. Wishing you nothing but the best for this weekend, and I will definitely be supporting you guys tomorrow and all the way at the Rugby World Cup. That is Babalwa Elijah, who is the Springbok women's captain. And Ashraf, before I leave, I do know that we have a voice note.
Yeah, we spoke about third and fourth place, and here's a very interesting question from someone who knows.
Hi, Ashraf. Following your discussion with Tumi regarding Banyana's third place playoff tonight, I just started wondering why it is that many sports fans will frown upon a third place playoff in team sports such as soccer, rugby, and cricket, whereas they celebrate bronze in athletics, like what happened with our 100-meter relay team at the Olympics. Thanks, Farai.
Okay, Farai, thanks for that. What do you think?
I think it's a very, very important question because, and it's not even only in athletics, because I think, if my memory serves well, the country was celebrating Bafana Bafana when they were coming back in terms of that bronze medal that they got when they were preparing themselves to play for that bronze medal. A lot of noise was being made about Bafana Bafana. So is it a women's football thing?
No, I don't think it's a women's thing. My simple thought is this, that when you come out third in a swimming Olympics or third in a swimming, in an Olympic run, right, a race, athletics, you are actually still competing in a final. Think about what I'm saying. You have to be in a final to finish third, because there's about 8 runners or swimmers that are playing in a final.
I get
you. The nature of team sport is only 2 teams play in a final. So you don't make the final, and therefore you're out. Yes, there's
it's a final before the final, Ashraf. It's the final
but
before
it's not a final. We can say, I asked a question to you earlier on, it's like, who played in the 2010 third and fourth place?
I don't remember.
Okay, you just answered the point then. There just is less value to a third and fourth place 2010 World Cup. I think it was, by the way, it's Uruguay against Germany. I don't even know the score. I think a lot of goals were scored. I can't remember. Because by nature, a final where 8 play in a final or 2 play in a final has got more value. I mean, that's just my opinion.
I think for me, I still stand. Listen, if Banyana come back with a bronze, for me, I would say congratulations. Yes, we'd love for them to win a gold. Yeah. But a bronze is better than nothing.
Of course, I'd say congratulations. Now, of course, I want them to win. But I'm just saying that the value is far less. There's a big jump between gold and silver
and bronze
in a team sport and bronze. There is a big jump. And therefore, it's celebrated less, as I think it should be, in my opinion.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer,
Think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Mzansi, be in it to win it. The Powerball jackpot guaranteed at 92 million rand is up for grabs this Friday. This is your chance at a life-changing 92 million rand jackpot. Don't delay. Play Powerball today and you could win big. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. eTuba is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
So, every Friday we have a fireside chat. Today, we've got a fascinating guest who's really he will inspire you. Sibusiso Mkhwanazi, the head of, the founder of Avatar Agency, and now the group's, the chair, in fact, of MNN Brands, right? So we'll talk to him after 5 o'clock. I'll get your calls just now on whatever you want to talk about. Lesotho, City Power, the issue of France, recognizing the state of Palestine, that conversation with Zinat Adam, and many other things that we want to talk about. I'd love to hear from you. But for now, Paswane Mpatlele is with me, Senior Accounts Manager at Makwe Fund Managers. You've got news, local and global markets, Paswane.
Afternoon, Ashraf, and happy Friday to everyone. Yes, we're closing down the week from all-time highs we've seen globally, and it's more of a mixed picture for Friday as investors are taking some profits, being cautiously optimistic ahead of next week with the likes of key interest rates decision being made and trade deals between the likes of the US and another key player in European Union having to possibly occur. Another driver that is keeping positive sentiment around investors is that the Trump and the US Fed are finding some easing among each other, but it's always a wait-and-see game when we talk about the US and Trump. These developments are helping volatility to ease and cool off, and increasing prospects around investors around ongoing growth that is rebounding along with healthy inflation's levels coming up healthily. And this build-up is reflected in the likes of the global yields when you look at them across the board. They have been positive and rising. Commodity prices on this front are feeling some pressure and offering buying opportunity going forward. Oil prices are sitting at $68.95 a barrel. Gold is at $3,343,000 an ounce, but still remaining bullish thanks to the dollar that remains weak on a trending basis. Bitcoin is also offering some opportunity that has collapsed at 115,000, somewhere there plus minus. All-time highs we're seeing in the stock indexes. We've seen opportunities of investors taking some profits, and we see some US indexes not rising much high, just marginally up 0.2 across the board. Europe, we're seeing FTSE down 0.4 and DAX down 0.5. The all-share index locally here is down 0.9. As resource sectors down 1.8, industrials down 0.6, and financials down 0.4. And with the momentum of commodity prices easing, the weaker rand is feeling some pressure. We've seen rand weak at 17.75 against the dollar, 20.83 against the euro, and 23.86 against the pound.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that, Paswane. And you have a fabulous weekend. We'll connect on Monday on the National Pulse.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Right, it means we've got time for calls. So we'll chat to our fireside chat guest, Sibusiso Mkhwanazi, coming up with Z, as they call him, after 5. It means I've got time to talk to you right now. John in Rudapur, go for it.
How are you?
Yeah, pretty well, John. Go for it. Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm surprised. I was listening to you with the guy who was talking about the grenade.
Yeah.
So if Bushiri and Baxter can get out of the country, why should we be surprised about this grenade thing?
Well, yeah. Okay, I hear you. I hear you. It talks about a complete breach. I mean, that's really what it is, right? And it's completely unacceptable.
Thanks,
got that, John in Rudapur. Thank you. There's another, Willie Nkuma, you've got a view on Lesotho. Go for it, Willie.
Yes, short and sweet. Ashraf, I think the constitution or something must be revisited to come and clarify that phrase or that sentence that South Africa belongs to everyone who lives in it. I think the Mandelas and the Ruth Mayers and so on, they did not mean actually those who stay in it. The foreign nationals, we could say they stay temporarily, but those who live in it are people who've got houses who live there permanently, you see. So these ones who've got problems with healthcare services and so on, they don't live here permanently. They stay here, so they cannot cry foul. And then overall, the issue is illegal foreign nationals. When you are legal, at least legal, you could have the services, because we are suffocated already with shortage of services in South Africa. Thank you.
Okay, got it. Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, even the conversation I had, I mean, that person didn't know whether they were legal or illegal. He also didn't know how many people were affected. First, one then said, I don't have the stats with me. Then said, I think about 20. So they were not clear about it. But I hear what you're saying about people being, foreign nationals undocumented, in this case from Lesotho, so Basotho nationals, right? But there's a sense, and we've heard that, there's been examples of that, where there has been groups mobilizing, not just with hospitals, but others too, preventing foreign nationals from receiving a type of treatment which is their constitutional right in this country when they are documented or not. By the way, I understand constitutionally there's a whole gray area around that. That means, because the puzzle is, they say, you have to be documented to be in this country. If you're not, you are illegally in the country. But once you are in the country, you have to be given treatment because you are in this country. Does it sound contradictory? Well, I've heard that too. Willie, thanks for that call. Right, Pilani in KZN, hello.
Hi, Ashraf. I'd like to find out, this guy is complaining about Lesotho people being denied access to our medical facilities. How many of them are in South Africa? Because there could be a few thousands of South Africans in Lesotho, I suppose. But yes, with the amount of Lesothos and Zimbabweans that are here, it just doesn't compare. Our health facilities are overwhelmed with foreign nationals that are coming across the borders to receive medical care in South Africa. It will be interesting to find out how many South Africans are actually in those other countries and demanding
maybe you're right, but does it actually matter? It's like, what does Trump deal with the South African? Does it make any difference? We have to deal with our own country and our own constitution. And yes, there's bilateral arrangements with many others.
Because if we're going to have, say, just a rough example, if we have about, say, 40,000 Zimbabweans in South Africa demanding to have access to our medical facility, and we only have about maybe 800 or 1,000 South Africans in Zimbabwe, the scales are just not evening up, you see. That's my point.
Okay, got that. Thanks for that, Pilani. I see Felix saying, Ashraf, you're misrepresenting those organizations. Their campaigns are against those illegally. I hear you, Felix. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying to you, I hear that part. But we've certainly had reports that extends beyond people who are here legally. That means people who are here legally or foreign nationals have also been targeted. That's what I'm saying. I don't have all the numbers, but we've certainly heard that as well. So, yes, there are contradictions, and it appears that if they do come up against people who are here legal or illegal, that, they can get away with and pushing them out, whereas it shouldn't be their role. It should be government's role, for example, to do that. You can mobilize, you can protest, but can you physically remove anybody? And I mean, that would be vigilantism. I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong. I'd love to know. I'll get to your voice notes after this.
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit CFI.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45. Proudly sponsored by CFI. CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
SPAR brings you 3 days of even more from 25 to 27 July. Get 1 kg Kellogg's Cornflakes. Buy 2 for 120. Save 50 Rand. Or 200 gram Baker's Blue Label Mori biscuits. Buy any 2 for 28. Save 16 Rand. It's 3 days of even more. 25 to 27 July. Only at Spar. While stocks last.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
Mzansi, be in it to win it. The Powerball jackpot guaranteed at 92 million rand is up for grabs this Friday. This is your chance at a life-changing 92 million rand jackpot. Don't delay. Play Powerball today and you could win big. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. eTuba is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
Who says talking never solves anything? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Call us on 086 000 2032.
And you certainly can call it, and you certainly can air your opinions about everything we've discussed today. Lesotho certainly is one that has got many people thinking about it. So please do, if you want to add to that, but add to Palestine and France in terms of the French position and that potential, well, not potential, the president's saying there's going to be a shift. Just how big a shift, I'd love to know. But other things too, that the grenade story, sure, man. In the meantime, it's season 2 and the stakes are even higher. This time, South Africa's favourite stars are back at the briefcase, playing for charities close to home and close to the heart. Big names, big hearts, big deals. Don't miss Deal or No Deal, Celebrity South Africa, Saturdays at 6 p.m. on SABC1 in Mzansi for sure.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Yeah, see Farai's thank you message. Thanks for that, Farai, saying Ashraf, wow, brilliant distinction there, Ashraf. Third place in an actual final, as in a race, like athletics or swimming, that's my words, versus a third place playoff in a team game, mostly the day before the final. Never crossed my mind before. Good point. A light bulb moment. Hey, I only thought about it 2 minutes before Tumi asked me about it. So yeah, it certainly gets me thinking about that too. Right. But there's a lot of voice notes that we want to play. The grenade story. Yeah.
Afternoon, Ashraf. This grenade guy going all the way to Ethiopia. It's the same situation as those drugs, massive consignment of drugs being found at the airport, the Aratambo, all the way from Brazil. How would they have gotten those aircraft from Brazil? Shows that there is a lot of this bribery going on. Andrew from Butterworth.
Clearly something's happened there. There's no question about that, Andrew. You know, does someone get allowed to go through because they were negligent? That's bad. Or they were bribed to go through. Either way, there's a compromised security. It means the people then in charge of security are compromised. That's no good at all. There's more on that.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the listeners. Ashraf, I'm shocked. I'm shocked, really. So it shows us we don't have people capable of doing searching, or else we have, but they are accepting the bribe. That's why we have so much drugs in South Africa. It's because of people there accepting the bribe. It's so painful. It's Honorable Magweka Kuban. Welgazile. Danko.
Well, there we are. Many people would have that view, but the issue is that the security has been compromised, and that's a problem. Here's one on France.
Ashraf, this is Incognito in Durban. Good afternoon. France wants to recognize Palestine as a state. Okay, right. That's the first step in the right direction. And I hope the rest of the G7 and all those other people who are associated with Israel and America, they need to do the same. But they should also stop funding them and providing aid, because Palestine's got nothing. This war is just one-sided, you see. They should also stop issuing those strong-worded letters and speeches, you see. If they want to do something, let them also join South Africa in the ICJ case. Put pressure on Israel, you see, and they should stop funding them. People are dying. Innocent people, journalists as well.
Well, I mean, the point that you raise is basically what Zenith Adams said as well. And if you'd like to, please listen to that interview as well. It's up as a podcast, of course, and making the point that, the country that's saying that we're going to finally recognize the state of Palestine, and really it's finally, are the same country that's actually funding Israel in their fight against the Palestinians. Now, the Palestinians, you may have an argument that Hamas took it too far in terms of what happened October 7th, but this fight didn't start on that day. It started a long, long time before that. And even when they talk about demilitarization, they talk about Hamas doing so, not the Israelis. Keeping in mind right now, you just have to forget Middle Eastern newspapers, go and see the Western papers and what they're reporting about it, en masse about what's happened. It's a frightening story. And you wonder, what are they going to do next in terms of, well, there's huge duplicity in the world, and that's been picked up as well across the board too.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. This is Mbongo Sondisa. You know, Ashraf, these political leaders, politicians, they are taking us for food, for fools. You know, these guys, there's a union buildings in Pretoria. Why can't they use union buildings as parliament instead of rebuilding Cape Town Parliament for 4 billion? Imagine they need to fly in between Pretoria and Cape Town. They need to have a house that in Gauteng and also in Western Cape. Why can't they use the one in Pretoria instead of running up and down using taxpayers' money? Imagine 4 billion instead of using the one that is in Pretoria. And now very soon there will be this national dialogue which is going to cost 700 million, whereas people are suffering. You know, Ramaphosa, man, this gentleman must go. It's enough.
Why would you blame Ramaphosa for all of this? I mean, the issue of 2 parliaments, well, there's 3, in fact, 3 seats of power in terms of the judiciary as well, being in Bloemfontein. But let's take parliament and then the union buildings, right? That started in apartheid South Africa and it's continued right through. I mean, there's a case that it may just be ridiculous, but it's been in practice for a long time. We can talk about changing it. Is it effective, cost effective to shift it all to one city? It's been an ongoing conversation.
Sheriff, the guy was testing the water and he passed. We don't have security in this country. We can be attacked very easy. Thank you.
Oh, you made me chuckle. And you may be right. The guy was just testing the water. It's like, okay, if I can get away with this, then we'll see. Ashraf, the Basotho are not immigrants in South Africa. Let people go and learn the history of South Africa. Basotho are natives of this land, from Cape Town to Morsi, Utunya, by the way. It's ours who are called the waterfall, that name. I mean, I hear you, but, listen, at this point in time, they are seen as different countries. That's what it is right now. I can't change it, can I? I can't change it today. Well, you can't either. Okay, we should be having the fireside chat with Zibosiso Mkonazi coming up after 5. Let's get the news. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg Gross.
Thank you, Ashraf. Premier wants answers from MECs over corruption allegations in Israel to allow the airdropping of humanitarian supplies in Gaza. Good day to you. The KwaZulu-Natal Premier, Tami Ntuli, says he's demanded a formal explanation from 2 MECs in his provincial cabinet after their names were linked to corruption allegations. The Health MEC, Nomagugu Simalani, and the Education MEC, Sipho Hlamuka, face a range of allegations which include tender fraud, political interference and abuse of power. Premier Ntuli says he's given both MECs until Monday to respond.
For now, to me, there are allegations that will have to be proven, even if they benefited
to understand whether the process was a process of integrity. That is what we will be looking at after the submission, because it will not end with the submission. There are allegations even about the process. Even for the process, there will be some action. But I'm still waiting for the response from the MECs, which will inform the processes to address all potential irregularities.
The Hawks say it doesn't rule out the possibility of arresting other persons of interest in relation to the burning of Parliament in 2022. Zandile Mafe is the only alleged arsonist arrested in connection with the fire. Acting head of the Hawks, Sipasihle Nkosi.
Or if we are able to establish new leads or to obtain new information that requires to be action, we will obviously follow those leads. And also to indicate that the investigation is conducted in collaboration with all critical stakeholders. Information that is made available to us will obviously be shared with crime intelligence as an example, and to ask them to enhance such information.
Meanwhile, the Development Bank of Southern Africa says it anticipates that the rebuilding of Parliament will be completed by the end of next year. The bank was commissioned to do reconstruction work of the parts of the institution that were damaged by fire. The multi-billion rand project includes the refurbishment of the burnt old Assembly building and the new National Assembly. Initially, about 2 billion rand was set aside for the project. However, it's now expected to cost just under 4.5 billion. The Development Bank's Chweni Rampele.
At that point, we were looking at commissioning the building, and in particular, we're looking at November 2026. So it at that time, the building would be practically complete at 95%. When we say practical completion, it means it can really be used, and we will then with the 5%. Somebody can say what is then going to happen with the 5%? It's just basically to then say we would have identified some one or two few snacks that needs to really be dealt with. But in terms of what we anticipate to do is to say once then the building can be used, and then probably around January we then will just be making sure that the little snacks that which we call the snack list is being addressed in order to then ensure that we are ready for February State of the Nation address.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says his visit to the Northern Cape is meant to assist in unlocking the provincial potential for economic growth, which will address many social challenges. He is committed to assisting the province in achieving the ambitious green hydrogen project.
Now, while the economy of the province has been growing and creating jobs, persistent challenges still remain. The National Treasury's 2024 Provincial Socio-Economic Review points to an increase in the percentage of people living in poverty here in the Northern Cape, and people who are facing real-life challenges. Unemployment, especially youth unemployment, remains high. So much as we look at the potential and the progress that is being made, these challenges are still casting a shadow on our way to much better development.
Israel says it'll soon permit Jordan and the United Arab Emirates to resume airdropping humanitarian supplies to Gaza, as the countries had done last year. Medical charity Doctors Without Borders says a quarter of all young children screened at its clinics in Gaza are malnourished. Dr. Nadal Hadeti is currently operating in Gaza.
Kids that are 8, 10, 12 years old should be weighing 40 kilograms plus. All I can feel are bones. Their humeral width, their upper arm, is the same width as their wrists. I can feel their bones through their skin, and as a consequence, they have no ability to cope.
The top story of the KZN Premier says he's demanded a formal explanation from 2 MECs in his provincial cabinet after their names were linked to corruption allegations. That's SAFM News, I'm Greg Khus.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105.9 FM in Port Elizabeth.
In your sports this hour, Banyana look for consolation in WAFCON 3rd and 4th place playoff. Proteas parade World Test Championship maize through Langa and Piastri. Fastest in practice 1 for Belgian Grand Prix. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Diepkloof has a crash reported before the Rand Show Road exit. The N3 northbound, a crash before Buccleuch interchange, and the M1 southbound queuing towards Boysons. In KZN, Umgeni Road is slow moving near Sumisin Kwanyana Drive. In Cape Town, Klipfontein Road outbound in Athlone, queuing towards Jan Smuts Drive. The N7 checks Hadwell Drive southbound, queuing towards the N2 highway, and Van Riebeek Road in Kells River, slow moving at Noyensfontein Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Mzansi, be in it to win it. The Powerball jackpot guaranteed at 92 million rand is up for grabs this Friday. This is your chance at a life-changing 92 million rand jackpot. Don't delay. Play Powerball today and you could win big. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. eTuba is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. SAFM, in collaboration with the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz, brings you the Jazz for Young People concert happening at the National School of the Arts on the 26th of July 2025. Tune in to Seasons and the Soundtrack of Your Life, broadcasting live. This unique event is a powerful celebration of youth, creativity, and community spirit. Bring the whole family to enjoy a wonderful day of world-class jazz from young musicians, curated by Zoe Mudicha, featuring National School of the Arts Band, Willow Crescent Magnet School of Music Band, Biko's Manor, and many others. Have fun while doing good. Tickets are available at Quicket for just 80 Rand and 50 Rand for kids under 12. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Right, so let me just remind you, it's season 2 and the stakes are even higher. This time, South Africa's favourite stars are back at the briefcase, playing for charities close to your home and, of course, close to your heart, right? So big names, big hearts, big deals. Don't miss Deal or No Deal Celebrity South Africa, Saturdays at 6 p.m. on SABC 1, Mzansi for sure.
SAFM is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
It's so interesting we're talking about big deals because I've got to... Now, I'm not going to say the guy next to me is a big deal. I am going to say he has put together some big deals, if you get my point. I'm talking about Zibusiso Mkwanazi, right? So he's with me. He's the, co-founder of the Avatar Advertising Agency. What are you now? The chair of what's it?
I'm the chair of Avatar.
MNN, right?
Yeah,
or both?
and that.
Okay,
yeah.
fine, yeah. So if you heard what I said in the intro, that you may not be a big deal, but you certainly have put together some big deals, right?
I try.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. I mean, maybe let's start with now. Like, where are you now? Because I have to assume that not everybody knows who you are, right? So where are you now with your business life?
Okay, so I'm the chair of Avatar, and Avatar is the largest black-owned advertising agency group in the country. And so we've got offices here in Joburg as well as Durban. Some famous advertising that people might know would be ABSA, would be one. All the ads around your story matters. Lots of work from Isuzu brands in the food division, Robertson's, Norox, as well as in automotive, Isuzu, and various other industries.
That an agency creates it?
Yeah.
Conceptualize, creates, executes what?
So we basically do various things across the value chain, in advertising. So we create the work. So we would be the people behind the strategy, behind the communication, conceptualize it, and actually make it, really cool. After that, we would place the advertising. So on platforms such as these, on radio stations, online, the media buying portion of it, right? So we would do the PR component of it. I mean, we do that example for Honor in South Africa, Honor Mobile in South Africa. I mean, they're growing immensely. But, primarily, we are the primary agency. On top of that, we own media platforms as well. So we own billboards ourselves. We own platforms in different spaces.
What's your company worth? I mean, if I want to buy it. I'm making a pitch to buy it. Don't worry where I'm going to get the money from.
I'm still evaluating it. I'll let you know. As soon as I know, I'll let you know.
But you did say, I mean, you're South Africa's largest, and you punctuated the point, the largest black-owned agency.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you say largest, I mean, how would you evaluate large? What does large mean?
Okay. So, in our industry, when you look at the industry as a whole, it's dominated by foreign players, right? So these are agencies from Europe, America, etc., etc. Then you have another category, the independent agencies, in which we fall under, right? Now, the scales in these two places are very different, because when these agencies come into the country, they come in with dollars, they come in with pounds, and when they need to do things like media buy, they can easily buy for billions, right, worth of media, as an example. Now, in our context, I started the business from my bedroom, with 2,000 Rand, and it's been growing it from strength to strength till where it is, and so for us, we are a large black-owned agency. However, where the real scale sits in these multinationals. But, what's very interesting is that, some of the business that I counted, we've gone up head to head against those very same multinationals and won against them, and I've done that on a global scale as well, where I've gone against the best agencies from London, etc., to win global business against those multinationals as a South
And of course,
African
I must say, I used to host a marketing and branding show in my previous life at SAFM. So, of course, we used to interact quite often. So I'm very aware of the work that Avatar does, and I've been to your building and all that sort of thing, right? But, I mean, here's the fundamental question. So how does it happen that someone starts a business with $2,000 in what did you say, in the lounge, right?
In my bedroom.
In your bedroom. To be able to compete with the biggest, agencies in the world head to head. Give us a short answer of what happened.
So it's a crucible moment, to tell you the truth. It's when your mom says to you that you won't have money to take you to school, yet you've got a passion, for entrepreneurship. You've got a passion for business in general, and the skill that I had was around computers, and building computers, websites, etc. And at 17 years old, I just decided, instead of sitting around at home, let me try and raise my own money to go to school, and that was the motivator, to kind of go, okay, maybe a job is not the way to go, and let me do something. And I started, and in starting, it's just grown from strength to strength. I remember when I started, we had no employees. I was working with a whole lot of students, who were helping me design websites, etc.
So that was your business. You were creating websites.
That's how it started. It was creating websites, and then it evolved from websites to digital marketing. And in digital when I was in digital marketing, that's when my business became Crazy Boys, and we established our first office in Cape Town, as well as Joburg, of course. And And from Crazy Boys, then it went into full service marketing, and it became Avatar. Then after Avatar, and then Avatar gave birth to other businesses, the PR business, the media business. And that's how the group was formed.
Wow. I mean, a person whose name we haven't quite mentioned is yet Veli Ngubane, right? I'm privileged to know both of you guys, of course, right? I mean, he wasn't with you in the lounge or the bedroom, but he's been on the significant journey of Avatar, right?
Yes.
Tell me about that connection.
Yes. A very, very interesting connection. So I was giving a keynote address at the BBQ Awards, and I was talking around the story of David and Goliath. But I themed it in a business lens. And so he was very touched because he used to own a nightclub, something that many people don't know. He used to own a nightclub. So it was almost like a yin and yang, because from the world that he came from, that's not how business is done. Whereas now I'm coming with a different lens, with a different perspective of how to do business. And so he was wanting, to be far away from that life as much as possible. So when he heard that speech, so he came to me afterwards and he loved the speech. And I happened to tell him a few days later that I was looking for a marketing director for Crazy Boys at the time. And which, a few weeks later, he called me back and said, look, I couldn't find anyone, but I'd love to come on board. I was like, okay, I can't afford you. You work for one of the biggest agencies in town. And he left a very cushy job, to come into my small vehicle at the time.
Now, they often say, you have to choose your partners like you choose your life partner. So why would you choose him? Besides him telling you I'm the best guy for the job, effectively, making the point about the yin and yang, because, he's got this nightclub, and if people need to read your book, right? Business by Grace, you're a very religious person. It comes through. I've been at your book launch, but I've known this before. Your Christian spirituality comes through completely. So at that point in time, how would you then decide that that's a good fix? With Veli and yourself.
So it's identifying character. I believe that entrepreneurship is more about character than anything else, right? Because you can come from the best schools, right, and have the best degree, right, and not reflect that. And you can come from the worst environment that defines you in a certain light and reflect the exact opposite. And that defining aspect, I believe, is character. It's your character. And I had to be honest about my own character, right, and my own personality, character and personality. I'm an introvert at heart, and I'm an entrepreneur at the same time. So I have the skill, but I don't have the ability to engage and sell and the whole song and dance. Whereas with Veli was the stark opposite of that. He's a creative guy, he's loud, etc., etc. So I had to identify that weakness within myself and balance it with Veli, and that's how we've made it work. Part of what I do is mentorship on entrepreneurship. And I've often found that one of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make is getting into partnership with friends, right? Because we get along, right? You make the assumption that when there's money on the table and when there's hard decisions to be made, you'll get along, which very often is not the case. Now with Veli, what makes the yin and yang balance is the fact that we believe in the same thing, right? So what attracted him to me was it was a very spiritual thing, which he believes in today, and that's what's maintained our partnership for the last 14 years.
Fascinating. More to come from Zibusiso Mkhwanazi. By the way, as always, we've got time for maybe one or two calls. So if you know him personally, that's great. Or you know his story. If you read the book called Business by Grace, then how about giving it a shout out just by calling? So you can call in live, or you can send us a tweet, right? Just use the hashtag The National Pulse, right? When you do that. Or you could send out a WhatsApp, which if you do 30 seconds each, 0614 104 107, or a text message as well on WhatsApp, 0614 104 107. More to come. Want to pick his brain on some of the big pressing issues in the world right now, currently, maybe in our country, after this.
They both have a rich history of glory. Amakhosi tackle the Porcupine Warriors.
This is as good as it gets.
This is the Toyota Cup.
The game you've been looking forward to on your football calendar.
Giants refuse to fall.
The big game.
The big game. On Saturday, 26 July at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus across the entire African continent and SABC One. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport in proud partnership with Kaizer Chiefs Football Club.
Let me get this right, Ron. You're a plumber by day and Pretoria's smoothest wedding DJ by night.
Yeah, it started out as a passion and now I've got bookings until December. And a smoke machine that needs its own seatbelt.
And you sold your car to buy a van through We Buy Cars.
Brew, it was music to my ears. Zero admin, no long queues. They pulled in, checked it out, and before I knew it, I had cash in the bank.
Now that's a banger. We Buy Cars. Geared for your passion, geared for you.
Hear the rhythm, feel the heat at the Imbaula Music Festival in partnership with SAFM, where music, culture, and community come alive. Join us on the 2nd of August 2025 at Pretoria Botanical Gardens from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. to vibe to Sanal Musician, Calvin Momo, Amanda Black, Zing Lumalo, Trompis, and many more. More than just music. Share stories, spark change, and unite against gender-based violence. Grab your tickets at imbaula.co.za. Brought to you by SAFM and SABC One. Hear the rhythm, feel the heat. Imbaula.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Right, continuing chatting with the Friday Fireside Chat. My guest is Sibusiso Mkhwanazi. I tell you what, you've just reminded me about the book launch. And when I asked you a question about what is our national purpose, right? Yeah. And I don't have to say what you said because the whole crowd is like, and you had like 1,000 people there, I think it was. I didn't know it. It's crazy. But here's the important point.
Yeah.
I asked the same question yesterday at this event that I moderated or emceed, and I'm not expecting an answer because you know why?
Yeah.
If you ask me that question, I don't have the answer.
Yeah.
The question needs to be asked because it needs to be put in the consciousness of the people.
Yeah.
And I've given an example before to say 2010 World Cup, 1990, the national purpose was Free Mandela. 94, nation building. 2005 onwards, 2010. Everything we ever did was 2010. I mean, you were very involved as well in 2010 from the work that you did, right? 2010. Since then, you can't say fight corruption is a national purpose. It's not true. It has to be aspirational.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this then. I mean, what in the midst of a conversation about the national dialogue and that, like, it's clear we're not clear on our national purpose.
Yeah.
How do we get to developing a national purpose?
Yeah, yeah. You know, well, if I were the president, this is how my approach. I would actually develop it in a similar way to how we develop communication. The first thing you need to do before solving a problem is understanding what the problem actually is, right? It's understanding the problem. What are the people actually saying, right? And once you define what people are saying, then you know what are the most important, because people will say a million things. What are the most important things, right? And your lowest hanging fruits from what people are saying, right? And from that, you then derive your strategy, as an example, as to, you know, in those low hanging nuggets, how do you then effectively address them? And then from that, then you get to a place where you know that, okay, so as a government, this is what we are about because this is what the people want. In this country, unfortunately, that is driven by political parties.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not driven by people. Right.
Never mind. We'd say, you know, we the people.
It's driven by political parties. It's driven by political party interests, right? And the ways that decisions are made, it's driven by political party interests, not the people.
But can we then therefore have two national purposes, meaning one driven by political parties, because they decide, as we've seen, but the other, that the people even outside of politics, never mind who they actually voted for, can mobilize around a rallying call, because that's what we don't have at the moment.
Yeah. I personally don't believe that can be developed by political parties. I mean, I won't mention which one, but I've done political party advertising, and I know exactly how it's built out. It's built out based on the purpose of your party and what you stand for. Now that is not necessarily what everyone in South Africa stands for. It's built out on the basis of what will get you into the union buildings, as an example, right? But when you go into the grassroots, a simple matter like we've seen, everyone thinks I'm related to Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. I'm not, right? But what Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi came out with and the action thereof, right? The people are saying one thing, and the politicians are saying another thing.
Yeah.
And that's where the problem, therein lies the problem.
But here's the issue. So, I hear what you're saying about maybe politicians don't depend on them to create a national purpose. So fine, I hear you.
Yeah.
But can we, the people outside of politics, do that?
Yeah.
By example, the Mkhwanazi, the other Mkhwanazi action, and others, by agreeing that this is going to be our culture, the way we do things.
Yeah. So maybe let me briefly talk about my philosophy in this entire equation. Like, I believe in that American president, who said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I'm deeply passionate about entrepreneurship development. And the reason why I'm passionate about entrepreneurship development is because I come from the township. I started my business in the township. It may be doing business globally today, but, its roots start from the township. And it's about the action I take in the township that I come from, right? And hence why, politicians are not even in my equation, in my thought process. And so when I established the Mkhwanazi Foundation, it was, so basically all the proceeds of the book sale go towards the Mkhwanazi Foundation, and proceeds from our companies as well. And this is to make sure that we are creating more entrepreneurs from the townships in particular. Now, we've done that in the past, right? And we want to create more, right? So this is my bit to make sure that I'm playing my part to make a difference. Now, there was that story, and I think I mentioned it at the book launch, of that boy who was walking by the beach, and there were like millions of starfish on the beach, and he was throwing them back into the water. And an adult then, comes by and says, hey, why are you throwing these things back? Can't you see how many there are? And then the boy then answers, and asks, what difference is it going to make? And he takes another starfish and he answers, and he throws it into the water and answers, but it made a difference in that one starfish, right? And so sometimes, in how we approach problems, right, we need to approach them in their most simplest form, make a difference to one person, and the next person pays it forward. The next person pays it forward.
Absolutely.
So for me, so the national purpose in my world is I need to make a positive difference to the next person, because that's my purpose, right? And if I can be a factor of influence and it multiplies, I would have affected a whole community.
And you are doing that, right? I mean,
100%.
I mean, making a difference with people
100%.
every day.
I don't have weekends. I don't know the last time I had a weekend.
What's your great skill? I mean, just a short answer on that. I mean, of course you're good at many things, but just it is one skill that you've got that gives you an edge.
I connect with people's hearts. I believe that's what I can do well. And that's why I say, for me, the reason, part of the reason, our business does well. God has just blessed me with the skill to connect with people's hearts. So when I sell advertising, and I know how to connect to viewers, I know how to connect to listeners, I know how to connect to people who are watching, whatever we are creating. And over and above that, in the community as well, I go into like the most dire situations in people's lives, and I connect with them.
Oh, you better tell us how you connect, because we all need the playbook. But just pause on that. So we can have a few things. There'll be business and sports. So it's like you can chill for about 6 or 7 minutes
right.
before we come back to you. But right now it's the news headlines. Here's Greg Host.
Quick look at those headlines. A concerned resident who publishes documents detailing allegations of tender corruption in the Polokwane municipality says his action was motivated by the need to see residents receive quality services. The KZN Premier says he's demanded a formal explanation from 2 MECs in his provincial cabinet after their names were linked to corruption allegations. And the late Jeffrey Epstein's former accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, is being questioned for a second day in the US about the late financier's sex trafficking work. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting in Gauteng, the M1 southbound queuing towards Omonde, the N1 southbound and four-ways queuing towards Winnie Mandela Drive, and the N3 northbound in Bedfordview has a crash reported after Van Buren Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound queuing towards Cliffdale, the M4 northbound queuing through Umhlanga, and Chris Hani Road westbound slow moving at the N2 highway. In Cape Town, Baden-Powell Drive northbound slow moving at the N2 highway. Voortrekker Road westbound in Goodwood has heavy traffic reported towards the N7 Jakes Hadwell Drive junction, and Strandfontein Road southbound in Pelican Park queuing towards Spine Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, Chumi, last sports talk, really speaking, for the weekend, right? What do you got?
Let's start off with Banyana, where star Jermaine Seoposenwe says that it will be a good consolation to return home with a bronze medal when they face Ghana in the WAFCON 3rd and 4th place playoff today. Seoposenwe says that the team is overall disappointed for failing to retain the title.
I mean, playing in the 3rd and 4th place is disappointing, to say the least. But I think as professionals, we definitely just have to, step up and take the responsibility of what this match brings. At the end of the day, as African champions, going home with a medal would still be somewhat of a conciliation. But I think the team is still motivated. We're here and we have to accept where we are as a group, and still go out there and fight in our last match in this tournament. But yeah, I think just to reconcile for what has happened and not making it to the final, not retaining our title, a bronze medal would suffice at the moment. There's nothing else we can play for.
Well, kickoff is at 9 p.m. It's also the final match for Seoposenwe international match. So I really do hope that Banyana win this one for her and injured Gabby. Then in cricket, Themba Bavuma and his Proteas teammates are parading the World Test Championship maze. This is through the streets of Langa. The World Test Championship maze tour has officially begun, and Bavuma believes that, or he hopes rather, that this will inspire more children from Langa and neighboring communities to pursue their sporting ambitions. Meanwhile, Proteas bowler Lungengidi has made a brutal assessment of their previous performances against New Zealand in their 2 previous matches, admitting that they did make rookie mistakes against them. South Africa lost by 21 runs and 7 wickets respectively to the Black Caps in this tri-series, and will be hoping for better fortunes when they square up again in the final in Harare tomorrow.
To be honest with you, whatever team plays better on the day is probably the team that's going to come out on top. We've played some good cricket and we've made silly errors against New Zealand when we've played against them. So we do know that it is possible. We just need to pretty much perfect our game in terms of how to go about it on Saturday. But yeah, I think that's the main thing, is that, whoever rocks up on the day the best is probably going to come out on top.
In tennis, Daniil Medvedev cruised into his 8th quarterfinal of the season at the Washington Open, dispatching Chinese qualifier Yibing Wu 6-3 and 6-2 in just over an hour. The 8th seed fired 11 aces and won 93% of his first serve points, showcasing the kind of form that took him to the final here in 2019. Then in motorsport, McLaren's Oscar Piastri set a blistering place in the Belgian Grand Prix. The Australian was 0.404 seconds quicker than Max Verstappen's Red Bull, and second McLaren of Lando Norris a further 0.1 seconds adrift. All right then, Ashraf, in terms of my predictions for
I'm
this
making
weekend.
notes, eh? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we're starting with Banyana versus Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with Banyana.
Okay.
Then Springbok Women's versus Black Ferns.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say Springbok Women.
Okay.
I'm being patriotic.
Mm.
Am I allowed to just say McLaren for F1? Like,
You
do I
can
need
say
to say
what you
which
feel.
driver?
No.
Okay,
McLaren's
I'm going
fine.
with McLaren. McLaren is going to win the Belgian Grand Prix. And then between New Zealand and Proteas, unfortunately, I'm going to have to say New Zealand.
Unfortunately. Okay. Got that? Is that it? 4?
Yeah, that's it.
And the 5th one? Nothing?
No.
That you will be back on Monday.
I'll be
That's a
back
good
on Monday.
prediction. So
Yeah.
That one you got 1 point already.
All right, then.
Have a fabulous weekend and we will certainly connect then, yeah?
Well, that's it. Ke nna Tumeng Kgapele, Modimo ke yo.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Champions need motivation above and beyond winning. South Africa, show your love and support for the WAFCON defending champions, Banyana. Witness the CAF Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 from 5 to 26 July 2025 on SABC Plus, S3, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game. Despite defeats in the semi-finals, the Black Queens and Banyana demonstrated real character. They are now hunting for the bronze medallion and the 3rd place finish. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the meeting between the West and the South. Ghana tackles South Africa this Friday, 25 July at 5:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC 3 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC radio stations at 6 p.m. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
This Mandela Month, Nelson Mandela once said,
We have traveled a long journey. We have fought for peace and reconciliation, for social justice, for all men, women, and children.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Okay, Jimmy, there's no market update at 7 or 6 to 7 today, being the Friday, but you certainly got some big news stories on the markets or in the markets and around the world too, right?
Markets are certainly digesting quite a bit of information at the moment. If we look at Asian markets, they're all finished in the red. The Hang Seng, the biggest loser, they're down 1%. The Nikkei down almost a full percent to 0.9% in the red there. Some of the sentiment that the market is pricing in at the moment, the dollar coming a little back into favor, not too much, but risk sentiment coming back to the market as markets anticipate a trade deals being concluded between this now and this time next week. We know that the tariff adjustments will be implemented effective this time next week, Friday, the 1st of August. That being said, the gold price showing a bit of weakness at the moment as markets kind of left gold and went back into riskier assets. $3,331 a fine ounce there. Brent crude $68.80 odd cents a barrel. Platinum and palladium pricing a little softer. Our local markets not finishing the week in the best of spirits, but still a relatively okay from a performance perspective overall. At the moment, the all share closed the day out 1% weaker. The top 40 1% weaker. Resources down 1.8%. Industrial 0.9%, and financials 2/3% weaker there. The rand 17 rand 79 against the US dollar. One Bitcoin 115,000 US dollars, or around 2,050,000 odd rand there. the rand weakening against the euro and the pound as well. Against the euro, 20 rand 87, against the British pound, 23 rand 90, and $1 Australian dollar, 11 rand 66. Going into next week, we're going to be looking to see how the trade deals are wrapped up and what we make of some of the risk sentiment related to South Africa. We know there have been early rumblings out of the US that some of the senators are not too happy with the positioning of the relationship with South Africa and the US, and that those tensions continue to feel themselves out in the form of potential sanctions that could be looked at. There's been a bill that's been proposed and put forward around whether or not certain individuals in South Africa should be sanctioned. We're going to keep an eye on that and see how that develops going into next week. But of course, we wrap up the month of July next week as well, and we look forward to the outcome of those trade deals that we've been seeing. So we'll be looking at that. We know that South Africa has put forward its own counter proposal to the trade deal, but it doesn't seem to be a deal just yet, but we'll dig into that next week. For now, we wrap up the weekend. We go into a rather chilly weekend, not in the best of shape, but still happy that the markets are up from a year-to-date basis, and hopefully we can continue the momentum.
Thanks for that, Jimmy. Right, you have a magic weekend, and of course we're going to connect with you on Monday, talking about the markets and everything else. Maybe at different sorts of markets. We continue chatting to a man who knows the markets in many different ways. Is at the threshold of it all, Zibuziso Mkhwanazi. He's the chairman, founder of the Avatar Agency, and he's just put out a book about his entire journey, which you really must read. It's called Business by Grace, and then you can interpret that second part very clearly by grace after this.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
In fact, there's a question. Hello to the Pulse. Can I please ask how much, this is for you, how much minimum do I need for some good advertising? Well, it says from Aviator, and I'm assuming, I don't know whether Aviator is his company's name or from Avatar, because it just could be a mistake.
Avatar.
I don't know, right? As a small business. So, hello to the Pulse. Can I please ask, how much minimum do I need for some good advertising as a small business? So maybe you can assist us in percentage terms, because I mean that will be helpful for some.
Yeah.
Should they market? I mean, as a starting point.
Yeah. Look, the best form of marketing, right, as a small business is great service. If you've got great service and people are talking about you, that is the absolute minimum. From a monetary perspective, it depends what you want to do, and it depends on the nature of business. So it's very difficult to give an absolute minimum, but I can say that there are affordable platforms like Facebook that you can get on. Those are pretty affordable. They are targeted, they are effective, depending on what you do.
And if it comes to you as a small business, basically, what's the minimum I must put down so Avatar can advertise for me? Can you answer that?
Well, I'll one day I'll establish a business specially geared for SMMEs. Yeah.
But how important is the talkability around good service that you mentioned? Because it is a form. It's not advertising.
Yeah.
But that word of mouth endorsement, because it is.
Yeah.
Right? How important is that?
Look, I think it's very different reading something on a billboard versus someone actually telling you the experience. It's almost like watching a concert on TV versus being at the concert, right? The feeling is very different. So like when someone tells you something that has someone with authority in your life, you're more likely to act quicker on that decision because of what that person's opinion means to you.
So here's a question. So does advertising work?
Of course
and
it works.
Why does it work? I'm asking that because, listen, I think I know enough about advertising anyway, but it's not for me. There's talk today of clutter every single day. Your advert comes on a channel you can just swap, or you're not even watching on a linear television. You're watching it on your devices. So does the concept first of advertising work to be able to put a message to me to convince me to buy a product? And the second part is the platforms. In a cluttered world, why does it still work?
Yeah, well, the great race is the art of understanding the customer. Advertising works provided that you are speaking to the right person, and you are saying the right things that they want to hear. right? If you're going to just randomly spray and pray, you're going to have very limited results. But the more targeted your message is towards your target audience or whoever you want to reach, right, the more likely that you can actually get them to make a decision. Now, many brands see people as walking wallets, right? And that's not what people are, right? People have got emotions. People have got aspirations. It's about advertising speaking to, who the person really is. But before you can know that, you have to have the research to back that.
And it would be research-based, like to understand
100%
that group of people and what they want.
It's the research behind it, right? In today's world, yes, it's the research behind it. There you get creatives and everything. But what we now do in our agency, as an example, it's the AI behind it. So when we research, all the research is tested through AI. So the research can say one thing, right? And then we use AI to actually refine the research even more. When we create the advertising, the messaging is tested. So if we are targeting this target audience, so we use AI tools to actually test, will it actually resonate with those AI tools?
Give me an example when you say AI tools. I mean, what does that mean when you say we'll use AI tools to test? Yeah.
Okay. So as an example, I'll come up with a let's say APSA, Your Story Matters, right? So before Your Story Matters actually goes to the bank, right, we test it ourselves. So I will put it into an AI tool. There's a number of them. Famous one, ChatGPT. Microsoft has got Copilot. Sorry. Twitter has got their own. Facebook, Meta, they've got their own. So there's a number of AI tools that you can use. So there's specialist tools that we use. I'll put that message into a tool, and I will then kind of go, all right, in Gauteng, if I were to say Your Story Matters, right, how would it be received by young people? Would they actually resonate with Your Story Mattering versus older people, as an example, right, in different communities, in diverse. So we get to test all of those messages. And then the question is then, if it resonates with some people and doesn't resonate with others, then how do we then pivot it? Then the humans come in again, right? Okay. They rethink those messages. And then once the humans do their thing, and then it's tested again, right? So sometimes the humans are brainstorming with AI, where we including a whole lot of prompts, right, to get to a message. So even visually, once we design everything, we can test the message visually, right, where we can pick up, is this offensive, right? Because sometimes you put out a piece of advertising, visually looks great, right? But you don't know. But you don't know in certain communities, especially when you're doing global advertising.
So AI would give you that. Ability.
Yeah.
It delivers its own market research.
100%. So it's not a spray and pray. So it's a science by itself, right? And so once you know who you're talking to, what you're going to say.
I want to pick out something. Go ahead.
All right. So once you know who you're talking to, what you're going to say when you reach them, then it's about now finding them. Then AI again. That's where you use AI again to predict where those target audiences are. Right, that are most likely to consume our products or services.
And the reason I paused while you were talking,
so
I picked up a LinkedIn post from Abdullah Varacha. You would know Abdullah?
I've never met him.
Okay,
yet.
He's opposite you, by the way. DigiCars.
Yes.
Diagonally opposite your building is where. But I mean, he's not just that. He's a strategist at Gibbs and he's a global speaker. Super bright guy. But anyway, so yesterday he spoke at this event where I was the keynote, where I was the MC, But one of the things he said AI is no longer a tool; it's a strategic weapon.
Yeah.
And I thought I want to put that to you.
Yeah.
Is it a strategic weapon? It's not a by the way thing any longer.
100%. The thing is, in the world that we're moving in, AI is going to be increasingly part of it, right? So that's why for our staff, right, we are getting into serious programs to train our staff on AI, because AI is one of two things. There's a lot of fears that AI will take people's jobs away, as an example. Yeah, it may render some jobs redundant. It is true. That may happen. But by and large, it's actually not true. What it will do is actually help aid us to do our jobs even faster.
And
right?
it creates a whole different economy, right?
Correct.
Different type of market.
Correct. It creates a demand for new skills, right? And that's why we have to be ready now, right? That's why as a business, we can't be working in archaic dinosaur ways. The world has moved on.
Absolutely. Here's a question from Terence. Good day, Ashraf. What is his long-term plan to keep ahead of his competitors in a world of ever-changing technology? Let me just put that on pause because I want to get your response right after this.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Runners will brighten the streets of Phalaborwa during the F21 Half Marathon. It is a unique race that starts in the afternoon. Athletes confront the unkindness of the heat. This special running day honors 3 decades of endurance and unites Phalaborwa in motion. The 2025 edition promises an unforgettable experience. Catch the F21 Half Marathon on Saturday, 26 July at 1 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC2 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay.
They were more than just songs. They were the backdrop to your best days and the ones that change everything. The soundtrack of your life with me, Ernest Pillay, brings you iconic classics and hidden gems that spoke to your heart then and still do now. Whether you're driving, relaxing, or just remembering, let the music take you right back. The soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay. It's about your past, your story, and it's all right here on your favorite station, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 p.m.
This is SAFM. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, sort of on the home run here with Z or Zibuziso Mkonasi, the founder of the Avatar Advertising Agency. So, okay, that question from Terence about what's your long-term plan to keep ahead of the competitors in this ever-changing world, yeah?
Yeah. So maybe let me answer it with a bit of a history. For the first 10 years of our agency, it was about the agency that started with 2,000 Rand in the bedroom. It was the challenger mentality.
That was the pitch, yeah.
Yeah, that was the pitch. So between now, from 10 to 14, we're about, African creativity for the world. Because on the African continent, advertising is done in a very westernized way, right? And we do it the African way, right? Because largely that's who you're talking to. Now going forward, it's about how can African creativity now be amplified using AI. So it's the same thing, right? But now amplifying using AI. So it's taking lots of data from the continent and lots of knowledge from the continent and now applying it to
and that would
African
be
creativity.
for the African markets or for global markets?
So the thing is, we do advertising the African way, even for global brands, right? Because the thing is about Africa, it's about diversity, right? So the way in which we do advertising, I'll give you a good example. So a few years back, we did something for H&M. They were in a bit of a...
The monkey story.
The monkey story.
I remember that very well.
Yeah. But we had to then guide them, H&M South Africa as well as global, right? How to get marketing right in a global context. But because we're Africans, if you look at the diversity of South Africa, you've got so many languages, races, etc., versus Europe where largely you're dealing with one race, etc. The culture is very similar, So to get that multicultural advertising right, that is a superpower that we are selling to the world.
And just to give that context so people don't get confused, the Monkey Story campaign was the goods they were selling, and there was such an uproar. And I think the EFF were involved in it, and, got to the stores. In fact, you guys got in after that. Just so that people don't think that you did the monkey thing.
No.
After
we
that,
were
right?
the rescue team.
Yeah. And they realized they needed to understand culture.
Yep. That was our job. How do you reposition H&M, so that it's more culturally relevant, after such a storm?
Yeah, good point. Well, I don't want to forget this. You said earlier about your ability, your great superpower is your ability to connect with people's hearts, right?
Yeah.
So Okay, so that's the fact. But how do you do it? I asked you about like share from your playbook. How do we all learn from that?
Yeah. Again, it's understanding people's motives, first and foremost, aspiration. There's something very interesting about the African continent in that it's all emerging markets. And because it's all emerging markets, we are all very aspirational for the next thing, right? Versus when you're in first world countries where, you've been born in privilege, most likely. You live a very comfortable life, but in Africa, you always wanting, to grow. And it's touching people's aspirations, and their next and what they want to be, and that's when you truly
connect with them. So making that connection on a human level. All right, we've got about 4 minutes more to make the connections. So I'll ask you some quick questions with quick answers. I don't need long answers, right? Okay, give me a name of a person, a young person, that is wow, that so impresses you. Like, give a shout out to a South African that you think would be worthy of being branded on a nationwide station.
I think Theo Baloyi Batu is doing great. How he's revolutionized just shoes. As a young South African, I think he's doing great.
Okay, wonderful. Now, is there not a young person, anybody that you haven't had the privilege of meeting over coffee that you would just love to?
I'd love to meet Adrian Gore.
And you haven't. You're pretty close by, Discovery.
Well, yeah. We interestingly enough, we work with them too. We work with his bank but we haven't shook hands with him. I think his perspectives of South Africa are very interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Well, who knows? Maybe I'll facilitate that. You never know, right? What about? is there a good quote that you quote or mantra that you just love repeating?
Yeah. So it's two things. One is a quote, the other is a scripture. The quote, it's in Sotho. It goes "Pehelo e hlola mathata," which means that with perseverance you can defeat all challenges. And then the scripture is, "I can do all things through Christ that gives me strength." And the reason why that touches me, because it's almost like an empowerment from God, where He puts His power upon me, because it's His power, but He's invested it in me.
And a quick point, we can have another chat about this some other time, but this idea of business by grace, right? Of integrating that into your business, like give it that to me in one line as to how you do that.
Well, I've realized that, I've had so many chances in this business. I've done many things wrong, but I've seen another day, right? Because I learned through doing the wrong things. And the fact that I've, made mistakes, yet I still see another business day, it's only through grace, And even today, I'm not a perfect business person, but I try very hard. And the reason why I'm still going to see it tomorrow is still through grace.
And you always come across as very centered, right? Always. Why is that?
God is very important in my life. My faith is very important to me, and, in the world that I live in, it's very important not to let it get to me and what it comes with.
No matter what, it's a good point. I've got your book by my side. People must read it, Business by Grace, right? But give me another book, not yours, that you'd recommend that we should read.
The Art of War.
The Art of War. It's a famous one. Absolutely, The Art of War. How would you like to be remembered?
So my purpose is to make a positive difference to as many people as I can. And when I die, I want to fill a stadium of people that I've made a positive difference to. This can be my clients, people that I've touched in the community, people that have read my book that feel that they want to attend my funeral. That's how I like to be remembered.
When did you stumble upon that purpose? How did you discover your purpose?
Well, I went through a terrible time in life, as just in my early 20s, after, so at 21, we did very well as a business. We made our first million at 21. 23, lost it all and went through serious mental health issues. And after getting through that hurdle, and after that, I realized that I'm not living for myself. I'm actually living to make a positive difference. And that positive difference and that purpose of life, I infused it into my business, right? So that it becomes part of the positive difference. and that's how it's grown like super exponentially.
Hopefully you'll get your stadium there. My purpose is to build champions. Because it's the champion people that build the champion nation. I'm just saying that because I'd like to think that we can get all those champions to connect with you so that you can fill that big stadium, FNB Stadium or Soccer City would be just great.
Yeah.
Not now, one day, long
Let's
time
do
in the
it.
future. Yeah. Listen, our time's up. Love to connect with you more. Perhaps another chat on just the concept of business by grace in detail, because I think it's really so important. But Z, good to connect with you. And thanks for joining me on this fireside chat. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Listen to the podcast as well. We'll share that ASAP. Vusani normally does that, so you can check it out as quick as possible. But it's 6 o'clock. It's time for the news. Here's Greg House.
Thank you again. Ashraf Polokwane, whistleblower, speaks on corruption allegations and observing World Drowning Prevention Day. Good evening. A concerned resident who published documents detailing allegations of tender corruption in the Polokwane